Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Elite Racing Network. Tonight, we bring you the first race of the 2025 Belly Up Sports Cup Series season here in the Elite Racing League. It is the 13th running of the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. I am Zach Evans, joined tonight by William White, stepping up, substituting in the booth, while my normal partner in crime, David Westergreen, is actually competing in tonight's race. I mean, it's a big one. The Daytona 500 to start the brand new season. 200 laps, 500 miles, and at the end of this, we're going to have a new Daytona 500 winner. William, welcome aboard. Thanks for jumping in tonight. And I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than this. How excited are you for tonight's race?
Yeah, thank you for having me. No, you're right. It's the big one. It's the one everyone wants to win. Some of these guys have won it before. Some of these guys have won it multiple times before and they know how it feels. Some guys have been here a dozen times before and have yet to spray the champagne in victory lane. 200 laps, 500 miles ahead of them. Obviously, yeah, subbing in for David Westergreen. He's just one of 43 out there tonight, all with the same end goal. So it's going to be very, very exciting. There'll be stages at laps 65 and 130 to break up the action, Zach. But now we have our starting grid for the 13th Daytona 500.
And we'll look at these guys a little closer during the pace slash, but there you can see the lineup as it was formed during the qualifying. Yeah, well, yeah. So we'll get there in a second, but as you did see there, Ethan Burrell winning the 40 Racewear Pole Award in qualifying 1 week ago, just like for the real Daytona 500. We had the single car qualifying and then the duels to set the field for tonight's lineup with 39 charter entries and a few open entries. I believe we finished with 4 open entries. A little bit of a last minute situation we'll explain as we get closer to the start of this race, but we are closing in on the start of these special pre-race ceremonies for the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500, starting with our national anthem.
This is Vince Stover with the Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball show from the Belly Up Sports Network. Racers, start your engines.
one Cup Series win. It was at a super speedway just about a year ago. We'll see if he can get a second tonight.
A former champion here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, Gerald Campbell. He won one of the duels 1 week ago. He will start in the 3rd position.
And another former champion, not necessarily of Elite, but of the top level in virtual stock car racing. 2019 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Zach Novak starts in P4.
Connor Thompson, car number 30 for Shift Esports. He will be rolling off from the 5th position tonight, looking to make a strong impression after a strong effort in that duel 1 week ago.
And it's our highest placing X500 winner in position number 6. Johnny Thomas has tasted victory before here at the World Center of Racing in the biggest race in Elite. He'll fire off from the outside of row 3.
Trey Holmes, car number 23. That beautiful Carolina blue with the Jordan brand on the hood. He'll be representing Pro Edge Racing, probably trying to hook up with Ethan Burrell early on in this one from position number 7.
And Seth Rawls will start in position number 8. Only one podium in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, but that was at this very track at Daytona International Speedway. He'll start from 8th.
On the inside of row 5, there you see Ryan Schold. A little bit of a different look on car number 4 this season. We've swapped out the blue for the red. He'll be starting from the 9th position here in the Daytona 500.
And Jesse Racimus, a similar story as row 4. The X-Truck Series champion has only one win in the Belly Up Cup Series, but that was again here at Daytona. He rounds out the top 10.
A 2-time Daytona 500 winner and a 2-time Belly Up Sports Cup Series champion Matthew Weeks is starting in the 11th position in car 11.
And alongside him, quite the fairy tale story, it's Fueled Up Racing's Kurt Gibson that starts in the 88, owning the same number as, of course, Super Speedway expert Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's jumping straight from the 4th tier series to the top level of Elite. He starts 12th.
In the 13th position, a former pole winner for the real-life Daytona 500, the 2000 NASCAR Busch Series champion Jeff Green, making the jump to Kyle Hanshaw Racing. He'll start 13th.
And alongside him, Gavin Higgins in the 20, looking for his first Cup Series win this time around. His best finish was 9th at Atlanta last season.
2024 Belly Up Sports Cup Series champion Justin Wadsworth. It was a wild, silly season here in the Cup Series. He makes the jump to Pro Edge Racing. He will start in the 15th position tonight.
And Paul Mikolajczyk also looking for his first Cup Series win. His best finish last season was 7th. He achieved that twice.
Ryan Gable in the familiar black and gold 01 with Hux on the hood. He will start in position number 17 in the Lake Norman Motorsports entry.
And in 18th on his outside is Kyle Hanshaw for Kyle Hanshaw Racing. Teammates with X500 winner Johnny Thomas. Has won at a Super Speedway before. Got his first ever Elite win at the Grand National Series at Talladega Super Speedway. We'll see if he can put that expertise to good use tonight.
Carlos Acosta, we saw him win the Open before the Clash about 1 week ago. Been a pretty solid speed weeks for him, and he'll start 19th in that 02 Inca-Cola entry tonight.
And alongside him is the 36 for Abbott Motorsports, the highest placing car from that team on tonight's grid. He rounds out the top 20. That's Thomas Coonan. Also competes as well in the eNASCAR College Series.
Chad Frankenfield, the boss man, the inaugural Daytona 500 winner, another former series champion, will start 21st into kicking the tires forward.
And this 11th row reeks of experience here. A combined 422 Cup Series starts between Chad Frankenfield and Michael Goodman. Michael Goodman having 208 of them. Still looking for win number 1.
Ty McIntosh, car number 10, representing South Shore Racing in that 3Y TV sponsored entry. He will roll off 23rd.
And Brent Jones, car number 89, returning to the Crummy Electronic Racing Team, also known as TISA. Car number 89 has competed in all 12 previous iterations of the Daytona 500, but is yet to find victory lane.
We go back to row 13 now. And here is your reigning and defending Belly Up Sports Cup Series champion, Channel 199 Sim Racing's Blake Reynolds, looking to make it 2 in a row this season. He'll start 25th tonight.
And alongside him for Shift Esports, the 22 of Josh Adams has won the Cup Series 6 times in seasons past. We'll see if he can make it 7 tonight here at Daytona.
Starting behind the defending series champion is the defending Daytona 500 champion, Ethan Stanley, another Channel 199 entry. He'll start 27th here tonight, looking to go back-to-back in the virtual edition of the Great American Race.
And behind him, car number 95. That's Gavin Hibbs in position number 28. Has one Cup Series win. It was at a super speedway. That's Talladega just over a year ago.
Then we look at car number 41. That is Frank Fody, the father of winner of just about everything, Tyler Fody. He will start in the 29th position in that blue number 41.
And Harrison Talon, with a wealth of experience behind him, has yet to achieve a podium in the Cup Series for nearly 5 years. He starts 30th, looking to put an end to that drought.
Another one of our former Daytona 500 winners, the 2023 A winner of this event, Garrison Hogan, starting 31st here tonight.
And Gilberto Javier Gomera as well in the 85 with the Northwestern Mutual Shift Esports Ford that he will round out row number 16 of P32.
Jonathan Cutlip, another guy in that Channel 199 stable, a lot of them starting further back in the field, but you can imagine they're going to hook up pretty quick, and they're going to be going to the front. Cutlip rolling off 33rd.
And just alongside him, Ray Bracey in the 7 for South Shore Racing. Took his first win at a road course. That was in Tsukuba in the Truck Series 2.5 years ago. We'll see if he can break that drought tonight.
After that, Mark Revelos, winner one night ago in the RevLimit Workshop Development Series here at Daytona. He'll start 35th.
And alongside him, owner of Abbott Motorsports, Corey Abbott, has won here at Daytona before. That was in the Truck Series back in 2023A. Knows how to win at a plate track, but he's got work to do from 36th.
Michael Hossack rolling off from the 37th position, representing Canada here in tonight's field. Car number 24, position 37 to start the evening.
And alongside him in the number 90 for Lake Norman Motorsports, that's Scott Crump. Has won at every single level of stock car racing in the Elite Racing League, except for the Cup Series. He's got a point to prove in 2025B.
David Tooker, you know he's got to be one to watch here tonight. Coming from the 39th position, but don't sleep on that driver in car number 19.
Absolutely not. And behind him, a super speedway expert in Dustin Dewar in position number 40 for Do Good Motorsports, with well over 500 starts across all of Elite Series. He has got experience on his side, starting in the top 40.
Jaden Racimus will start in the 41st position in that Caterpillar number 1 entry for Abbott Motorsports.
It's the Elite Racing Network's own David Westergreen that I am subbing in for tonight. He starts back in 42nd in the number 9 for South Shore Racing. He's got it all to do to try and win tonight.
And then we've got one of our newer faces here in the 43rd position, Sean Judson, car 97, looking to make his way forward here tonight.
And last but most certainly not least, an understudy almost of 7-time Elite Champion Tyler Foote over at Lake Norman Motorsports. Driving the number 58, it's Mitchell Javier.
And that is your 44 car field for tonight's RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. Now we get to strap in for 200 laps, 500 miles. As you see, lights are out on the pace car. We are going to finally get this party underway in this off-season. pace car makes the left-hand turn, field crawls towards the Geico restart zone, green flag is in the air, the new season for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series is underway.
And underway we are now into turn 1, and already quite a fragmented start really from a lot of these drivers. Ethan Burrell gets a big lead that allows outside pole sitter Justin Vandermeer to slot in just behind him in second place. Zach Novak in P3, and already the inside lane really starting to emerge here with some authority here. Connor Thompson Gardner, Trey Holmes, now Chad Frankenfield, and potentially Matthew Weeks as well. All clear on the low side, and I think that's how it's going to stay for a little while longer. Everyone finding their groove. Up there is Johnny Thomas leading the high side coming out turn 4 for the first time.
And I think we will see these guys try to settle in. One thing we'll keep an eye on throughout the night, a new addition for the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series this season, as well as all 3 of the NASCAR Series, mirroring the Real Life Stock Car Series. There you see it. We will be awarding the bonus point to the fastest lap of the night. Gotta be a little tricky, of course, in a super speedway race like this. Probably gotta come from somebody near the back of the field on some lap later on tonight, but something we'll be keeping an eye on over the course of the evening.
Bonus points, of course, crucial. So you're going to want to do everything you can to try and get that fastest lap point. But I think, unless you're not really in the lead pack, sort of at the end of this thing, I think the main objective really is to not really worry about the fastest lap, and is to simply worry about making sure that your car is the one that crosses that finish line first. At the moment, Ethan Burrell's car is the one that's crossed it twice in first place, but he's got to do it another 198 times if he wants to win tonight. It doesn't matter where you are now. I'd be more worried if I were a driver about where I am at 150 laps time at the earliest. Doesn't really matter where you are now. All 43 of these guys still in contention. Justin Vandermeer giving just the slightest push to Ethan Burrell. No need to risk it yet. Nothing to be gained. Everyone finding their groove, finding out how their cars are behaving over the course of the run. Everyone looks very comfortable for now, as Ryan Gable now takes control of the outside.
And just to clean up a couple of those housekeeping notes that we mentioned, Gerald Campbell during our starting lineup, and I mean, he had been one of the hottest cars all weekend long, or all week long in Speedweek, but had some computer issues after he had joined the practice session and everything. So, I mean, it was not a case of him having he was here, he was ready to go, he was ready to chase another big win here in the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series, and unfortunately just unable to take part in tonight's festivities. That's how we ended up with the 44th car with an alternate coming in at the last minute, but that's why you will see him showing his 44th and out of the race on our pylon, and obviously just a tough break for Gerald Campbell to start the season.
Yeah, definitely that is a big loss for him, and well, for the league as well. It was definitely going to be an extra element to keep an eye out on. Gerald Campbell has won this race before as a two-time Cup tracks, and he definitely would have been one to watch. But obviously still plenty of drivers to keep an eye on. Not least Zach Novak, who is now leading the outside lane, leading a charge towards the outside now. Well pushed by Trey Holmes in the 23. And we have now got our first real fight for the lead on lap 5 of 200. But of course, still, risks not really being taken too much yet. Justin Vandermeer, I'm sure, isn't really feeling too inclined to push too hard to try and get that position back for Ethan. Zach now drops to the bottom. He takes the lead of the race.
Zach Novak, as you mentioned, during the starting lineup, former champion in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, the highest stock car racing here on the iRacing platform. Right now leading that inside lane. Falling back just a little bit. Trey Holmes out front with the push from Ryan Gable, but definitely going to have to keep an eye on that all season long. Among the best here on iRacing.
Absolutely. And we're seeing more and more of these professional drivers coming over to the racing league. Really shows how the league is growing. Blake Reynolds for Channel 199 over that brought other drivers such as Puma Collection. Garrison Hogan was a long-standing elite driver. He's also part of the Channel 199 Racecraft Academy stable as well. They've now also brought along Zach Novak as well. Join us from the professional side. We've also got a lot of IndyCar pros as well in the open wheel side of things. Drivers like Joshua Chin, Adriano Pinero, Robert Malechka, Jason Rosen, all have competed at the top level on the iRacing service. So this is really some of the best, most high-level racing you'll see on the service, which is all the more impressive to capture this big win in the Elite Racing League. And right now we are seeing lead changes left, right and centre, and it's a familiar sight in the Daytona 500 because Johnny Thomas is leading, looking for his second World JL trophy.
And you mentioned a former winner, probably the most popular winner, if we're honest, of this event here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Johnny Thomas, definitely a favorite among his peers here in the series, and always a driver to watch in these super speedway races. Not that he can't get the job done at other tracks. I believe his most recent win in the series was actually a Rocky Canyon. We all know what a driver track that is, but definitely somebody we always have to keep an eye on here at the super speedways.
And alongside him is Jeff Green, who is also one to watch at the super speedways, both in the virtual world and in the real world. Of course, was on the pole for this exact event in real life about 20 years ago now, I believe it was.
I think it was 22, but I was told there would be no math.
Oh, well, I will try and keep that no streak going, but one thing is for sure, it was before I was born. It's quite a long time, but Jeff Green definitely hasn't lost it at all there. In that number simulation.
You did not have to do that to me. Brutal. It is too early for the betrayal already out here.
So I had to do it. There you go. 2003. So 2 years before I was here. No. There you go. Good job on the math. Not good.
Left that part out. Could have left that part out. Did not know 2 years before you were born.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. It feels like it was only last week we were working together on Sunday nights in the truck series, and here we are.
Yeah. A lot has happened since then in the Elite Racing League. We've crowned new champions. We've seen the old guard still fighting up at the front, like Jeff Green, of course. Won the NASCAR Xfinity Series 25 years ago, but like you say, he's still got it. He's still running up inside the top 10 here at Daytona. Zach Novak running on board with now, pushing Johnny Thomas up towards the point. You're seeing already the push is starting to get a little bit more hard now. Of course, Zach has the experience, knows exactly how to push these next-gen cars. The flat bumpers on both ends of these cars really make them easy to push without having to lift. And I think Johnny Thomas is probably quite pleased to have someone of the experience of Zach Novak pushing him towards the front here at Daytona.
And, you know, we got to talk to a lot of guys last week during the duel broadcast, whether it was our top 3 finishers in each duel or even, you know, David Westergreen while he was spectating the first duel, and Matthew Weeks joining me in the booth for the second duel. And they talked about it. It's a pretty stable bump drafting car we have this season here. And you know how it is with iRacing. The updates from one season to the next almost makes every super speedway race a new lesson to learn. What works this time? What worked last time? Does it still work? And this time it seems like the bump drafting pretty forgiving for these guys. And I think that's, you know, where we're going to see a lot of these huge runs and being able to, you know, see guys surge from 3 or 4 spots back on the outside and get around a whole line of cars on the inside and be able to drop down like we've seen so far tonight.
Definitely looks that way, and already we are seeing the chopping and changing of the lanes go a bit too far. That's Jeff Green going around the wrong way there. No caution yet, spinning down into the grass. You can see a replay in due time, but that looked like a gap closing that was not really there, and thankfully does not get stuck. Exactly what happened. Jeff Green with a big one, trying to make the block. Jeff not necessarily clear of Johnny Thomas. The 83 has to take to the grass to avoid it. And that just looked like going for a gap that was opening, but was not quite open, Zach.
No, it just was not quite clear when he made the move. and that's gotta be obviously be a pretty bad situation there for Jeff Green. He's got to lose a lot of ground here, as is Johnny Thomas. And we'll have to see. I mean, certainly they lost the lead draft here. They're going to be hoping for a caution to get caught back up to the field.
At least glad that Johnny Thomas kept that car pointing in the right direction. The same could not be said for Jeff Green, but now you see Johnny Thomas 17 seconds off the lead. Jeff Green at 28, coming to 29 seconds off the lead. A lap here is about 45 seconds. So already, as we now see two new leaders for both lanes, Seth Rolls, for his first Cup Series win, has a two-time Cup Series champion and two-time Daytona 500 champion, Matthew Weeks, on his outside, but Rolls and Holmes look to be working together well here as they now will be coming to lap traffic for the first time in just a handful of laps, lest we see a yellow.
Seconds back and all by his lonesome, so he's got to be traveling at a much lower rate of speed than these cars in the draft. It will not take long for them to catch him if we don't get a caution.
Yeah, these cars roaring at over, I believe, over 200 miles an hour. We're just about clocking going into the corners here at Daytona in this next gen package here. I think by yourself you're doing about 180, so it really is quite substantial, the difference in speed. As you see there, as we don't on the bottom right, this is your leading car, Seth Rolls, and granted, we're not pushing too hard at this point, 193, but there goes Matthew Biggs flying by him, probably doing 196, 197. Of course, the guys at the back who are getting those big runs may well be finally pushing 2 times going into the corner there. We now ride on board with Jesse Racimas. He's run at this track before. He knows how to get it done in this car at this track. He's pushing Matthew Weeks to the point here on the outside lane.
16 laps in, 185 to go. 2 by 2 by 2, all the way almost 20 rows back here. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that here tonight, at least early on. I mean, it's one of those where the car's pretty stable, so it's safe to run side by side. But no, other than obviously we had that incident with Jeff Green, I think that's got to settle down a lot, guys, because you can see how much you can lose if you take too much of a risk here early on.
Yeah, I think definitely the first sort of half of this race, at least up until I would hope to, you know, the first round of pit stops, I hope we at least get to that point. You know, that is sort of the point where things maybe start to ratchet up a little bit. But again, sort of the first half of this race really is just risk management. You know, you don't want to push too hard. You don't want to get the guy loose. You don't want to push him up out of the groove at all. You want to just keep it steady. Learn how your car is behaving over the course of the run, and that is what these guys are doing. Matthew Weeks and Jesse Racimas doing it to great effect. Both of them managing to clear the inside lane there. On the top side, just a couple laps ago, they now both have dropped down, now leading the outside lane. Kurt Gibson in his first 500 start and his first Cup Series start, looking to get it done. He currently runs P7, pushed by Ethan Burrell.
And you know, for somebody like Gibson, you know, we've talked about, sure, there was the duels, there was the clash Monday a week ago at this point, but this is the first chance for a lot of these guys to have 40 plus cars on the track in this package all at the same time. So gotta feel that out a little bit. You know, sure, the duels were a close representation with 20 some cars on track in each duel. But this is really the first chance in a pack this big for all of these cars.
And they've got another sort of learning experience coming up now. Jeff Green, as we mentioned, just 5 laps ago was in that incident and is now losing a lap for the first time. Hopefully the only time for car number 2 that we see him take a blue flag of sorts. Although they don't exist in stock car racing, still does move out of the way of the front 4 that are seemingly streaked away somewhat from the rest of the pack. That's Weeks down to Trey Holmes, Zach Novak in P5 leading their particular charge, trying to get back up towards the front. Jeff Green not obliged to get out of the way and doesn't really need to. He's actually integrated himself nicely into this pack here, running just behind Zach Novak. So he looks to be in P6, but he's actually P43, although he's not paused in any such issues, and it's probably going to want to get back to the front of this pack before long to try and potentially, not have to worry about a lucky dog fight, a fight that he's going to have with Johnny Thomas if they do catch him before, if there is no yellow before they get there.
Oh, and certainly, if he doesn't have too much major damage and he can hang in this draft here, that's a great spot to hang on to for Jeff Green and hope for that caution. The interesting thing this has created is now we've started to see some more of that 3 wide further back right now, kind of Connor Thompson-Gardner, Garrison Hogan, Ryan Gable leading that 3 wide surge, and this is where it gets a little dicier. We mentioned these cars are pretty stable, especially compared to, say, the Xfinity cars we saw on Monday night in the Revlist Photography Grand National Series. But the lines are, especially that middle lane, not really straight, narrow, and kind of making it a little awkward for that high side at the moment. So not really sure how this is going to work out.
Yeah, this is the sort of, not necessarily a problem, but certainly something these guys have to be aware of. In the Next Gen Cup car, you're not necessarily, if you're running the outside lane, you don't necessarily want to run on the door of the inside lane. It creates a big side draft effect. Obviously, you're not going to make many friends side drafting people 20 laps into a 200 lap race. It also can get those cars unstable, sort of maybe drag those inside cars up a little bit just with the air, not necessarily anything that they're doing, and that can cause issues. So typically what you're doing, as you will have seen these past 20 laps, is they're running on that black seam that you see just off the right hand side of Matthew Weeks' car being run on board with, just through the middle of the track there. That's sort of where they put their cars so that there's no real side draft. What that does mean is that 3-wide can get a bit dicey, as there is more of an offset between each car on the high side. We now see some more 3-wide action, as that's Justin Vandermeer and Ethan Burrell working together to get past Jeff Green, who is now stuck on his lonesome in the middle of the track there. That's Vandermeer, Burrell, and Hogan all now getting past. Well, Cutlip and Tucker, I believe, are looking to follow suit there, working together in a duo on the high side, but Green is going to be picked up by teammate Dustin Dewar. So we now have a 3-wide deal sort of in and around 20th place.
Yeah, I think Johnny Thomas has got to be able to latch onto the tail of that big lead group. He just kind of let everybody go while he ran the high side and slotted back in. So certainly, oh no, maybe not. He is, well, maybe. He's just hanging on to the tail of that group at the moment, but certainly that puts him behind Jeff Green in the battle for that free pass should a caution come out that you were referencing.
Yeah, definitely, and that is, of course, while it's not of too much importance now, I'm sure cautions will come out that do sort of bail out Jeff and Johnny sort of by themselves. I don't think the lucky dog fight is something that's too important, really, when it's just 2 cars 1 lap down. I think they'll both eventually get that lap back just through yellows and not being involved in their own problems. So I think, especially those are 2 very experienced heads, they're not going to desperately try and get back up to the lead pack when it's simply not feasible and cause issues that way. They are 2 well-respected drivers. They know how to run these races even when adversity does hit early on, so I don't think anyone, not least too concerned about any incidents for those 2 drivers. But still leading the way now, nearly a quarter century of laps ticked off. Matthew Weeks looking for his hat trick of both championships and Daytona 500 victories, still pushed by Jesse Racimus all the time in first place there. Seth Rawls and Trey Holmes and Zach Novak have all been up front pretty much all night long so far. That's your top 5. Justin Vandermeer, though, still leading the outside lane as he did at the green flag. He's got Polster, Ethan Burrell just behind him. Trey Holmes now pulls out to pick up his teammate. He now leads the outside lane.
Trey Holmes leading that outside lane, has Ethan Burrell behind him. Justin Vandermarl as well. Actually, it's Vandermarl who is second in line in that 54 car. Trying to
Still
get that outside
breakaway
lane
now.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just, seeing a breakaway. Not so much anymore. I think Seth is starting to catch back up, but for a brief moment there, Matthew Weeks and Jesse Racimus really working together well there on the bottom side. Almost got a 10th and a half clear of Seth Rawls. That gap has since closed, as I think Jesse his engine temperatures might be getting a bit hot. Of course, not much air getting to that car when he's tucked right up underneath the 11 of Matthew Weeks, which is another element that these guys are going to have to watch. It's not something that we've really talked about much since the green flag, but of course, when you're pushing cars, particularly when you're second, third in line, your engine temperatures, your water and oil specifically, can really get quite hot quite quickly. They can get about as high as 280, 290, 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is sort of the temperature where engines start to blow. We saw that last night in the RevLimit Workshop Development Series at this very track. Dominic Wright, unfortunately, very early on, just couldn't on those temperatures. His engine ended up giving way only about 15 laps into the race, being a pusher. So that is something these guys are going to have to watch out for. You can't keep pushing constantly for 200 laps. Your car simply won't allow it. That is why you're seeing Jesse Racine not necessarily be able to push Matthew Weeks super hard all the time. He has to watch those temps.
Absolutely, something that has to be managed. It's kind of walking a fine line there. You definitely want to use these early laps to learn how hard and how long you can push, because at some point at the end of the race, right, it's probably going to come down to, if you're in contention for the win, being able to make that push. But at the same time, you can't go to the well too early or too often and throw your race away here on lap 30. So definitely a tricky spot to be in, but definitely being up front is affording them a little more opportunity to experiment and learn for later in the race.
As well, just experiment really how hard they can push, how long they can push. You know, what's the most efficient way to push? Is it, you know, maybe backing off in the middle of the corner, taking the run, and then a big shot sort of further away halfway down the straight, maybe a couple big shots? Or is it just a one big long push like we're seeing, just about detaches from the back of that 11 this time, but you know, are you maybe wanting to give one big push, one long consistent push to the back of your sort of colleague, really, I suppose, in that context? We'll have to wait and see just exactly how these guys choose to go about it, but we're now seeing some big breaks here. I presume, again, maybe those engine temperatures that we were talking about, people starting to be more mindful of those, but Matthew Weeks, Jesse Racine is still tucked up nicely together. Seth Rolls still with them. Zach Novak's gone up to P4 now. Ryan Schold and Carlos Acosta as well starting to work their way up towards the front as well as the chopping and changing continues here at Daytona, coming to the beginning of lap 30 of 200. And Zach Evans, we will not long be coming to green flag pit stops if we can keep it caution free in this first half of the race here.
Oh, we sure will, and I think that's probably, for me personally, that's always the most stressful part of super speedway racing, because honestly, you've got to be, especially in a field as competitive as this one, you've got to be pretty much flawless on a green flag pit stop. And any sort of miscue, whether it be sliding through your box, failing to turn off a tire change, not getting the fuel number right, not being as aggressive as you need to be on pit exit, and certainly the obvious one, the big no-no, don't speed on pit road. That is a massive penalty that is very difficult to recover from. But even just those tiny mistakes can cost you the lead draft and really be a huge blow in a race like this.
Yeah, obviously these guys are pushing the limits all the time, and there's no real room to be timid, as you say, not being as aggressive as you need to be. You have to brake as late as you dare, but again, go a couple meters too late, those rears will lock, and you'll either go around or the fronts will lock, and you'll speed on pit road, you'll get a commitment gun violation, you'll slide the box. You have to be absolutely perfect from the moment you dive below that yellow line. It has to be absolutely perfect. And of course, you can't just go into a test drive and repeat by yourself, because in a paddock, you're going 20 miles an hour faster. You have to adjust for that. It's something that you really learn either in the duels or in open practice, and ideally you want to at least get a few repetitions of that in open practice. Otherwise, you're learning on the fly. And that is when it gets really stressful and really tests these guys. And that's sort of where the experienced heads begin to prevail in that regard. And, you know, we're seeing, again, the experienced heads sort of come towards the front here as the outside lane really starting to fall back. Presumably, guys starting to get to the inside. I think green flag pit stops really are not far away now. with Matthew Weeks and Jesse Racines still leading the way. Of course, these guys will also be in constant communication with one another. It's sort of the gift of iRacing that you don't see in real world racing. These guys can simply hold a button on their steering wheel or on a button box and key up, say, I'm going to pit in X laps or I'm pitting this time. And they can coordinate with each other, with teammates as well, to all pit together so that you don't have people simply pitting by themselves and, of course, losing the draft that way. So very quickly, these green flag pit stops, they become an exercise both of driver skill as well as coordination between all 40 of these guys, and it's really sort of where races can be won and lost as well.
And you mentioned, being able to get a rep in practice or the duels, but as you may recall from last week, we did not get that rep in the duels. We had a caution pretty much near the halfway mark in both duels last week, took away the potential for those green flag pit stops. Everybody handled their service under the caution flag. So if this run does continue on, this will really be the first green flag pit cycle we've seen, as you would say, William, in anger.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely not, you're going at 70 miles an hour behind the pace car, and while that is, most speed limits on most major highways and motorways in the world, that feels like you're crawling when you're in one of these race cars. As you say, we're nearly hitting 2 tons going into the corner here, especially as the aggressiveness continues to ratchet up, lap times will continue to fall. We are seeing the best drivers really on the service here. In some respects, and they have to get it absolutely nailed on, and without those repetitions in the doors, as you mentioned, they're really only going to have had practice, I suppose, both in the half an hour warm-up in the build-up to this race, practice for the duels, but other than that, they are essentially going in blind, and it's going to really make this stressful for these drivers. So I think the most important thing now for these guys is to be methodical, plan ahead, say, okay, I have to pit within the next X amount of laps. Coordinate with other drivers, with teammates, and, just pick a marker and stick with it. Make sure all your black boxes are in order when you come in, and just stay calm, because if you hit that brake too hard, sling that wheel left a little bit too much, lock those rears, your race can go up quite literally in smoke.
And we see more and more of these cars making their way to the inside. I think you're right. I think we are closing in on that fuel number to start seeing those green flag pit stops. Still a few cars hanging out the outside. And actually, somebody just jumped out there to join the tail of the outside lane. I believe that was... Yeah, so that looks like it was teammates. Dustin Dewar and Michael Goodman, I believe, were the 2 guys who jumped out there. Maybe Ryan Gable as well. I can't tell. Ryan Gable was in that outside line, but I'm not sure if he was there already or one of the guys that jumped out there.
I think I saw 7 just before Dewar jumped up, and I think Dewar is the 8th there. So, yeah, Good Motorsports both jumping up in tandem, but I think Michael Goodman just wants that safety on the low line, being able to pit. A slight gap behind the 44, and the 32 does, filing quite nicely, so back to 7 cars. On the outside lane, they are led by the 54 of Justin Vandermeer on the high side in the Red Bull number 54. Used to the outside lane, of course, started this race on the outside pole, pushed now by Ethan Burrell, Justin Wadsworth, and Scott Crump. So a fueled up Pro Edge 1, 2, 3 on the high side. They'll all be working together quite nicely, but still, I would be, me personally, just a little on edge if I was one of these 7 drivers. I'm looking for some room at the end on the inside lane there, just to make sure I'm not stressing about pitting from the second lane. You can, but only if the people on your inside are also pitting, and even then you have to be careful not to door them on your way down. So I would really, if I'm these guys, want to get to the bottom as soon as possible. And I think, judging by where they are, I think the only way they're going to get that is if they're let in by a teammate or if they get to the front.
100%. I think it, especially as you get closer and closer to that fuel number, you have to be pretty confident that you can go at least 1 lap more than the guy to your inside if you're staying out here much longer. And or you could go that route. Ethan Burrell just goes ahead and pushes Justin Vandermeer out to the front, and then Vandermarl is able to clear down to the inside. And we'll see now if Ethan Burrell can do the same with help from Justin Wadsworth or not. But those are pretty much your two options, right? Either get to the front and then get down, which is easier said than done, or hope these guys to your inside pit before you have to.
Well, there you go. There's three of them that have all managed to do the same thing simultaneously there, with Ethan Burrell, Justin Wadsworth, and Scott Crump completing that move quite nicely there. David Tucker now leads the outside lane with help from Zach Novak. Tucker manages to find a gap just in front of teammate Matthew Weeks. I'm sure Weeks there just lifting off just to let him in there. Teammates working together. So Zach Novak, I believe it's Gavin Hibbs, Ryan Gable, and Chad Frankenfield. Now they're on the high side, presumably also looking for a way down to the bottom. But lap 40 of 200, we are a fifth of the way through this race, so we know that they can at least make it this far on one tank of fuel, but we'll see just how much longer they can go.
There's definitely some communication in the driver chat. We are definitely closing in. Here we go. There's your first group of pitters. Ethan Burrell, Justin Wadsworth, Justin Vandermarl, Trey Holmes, Matthew Weeks, David Tucker. I believe that's Jesse Racimus at the tail of this pack.
Tree did not look amazing from Ethan Burrell. Maybe a little quick. Definitely locked up a good bit.
Can confirm black flag on car 37.
Oh, no. So that's going to be a long, long hold. He'll definitely lose a lap, if not in the pits. When the leaders come back around, might lose 2 laps. As all his teammates come out the pits now. Justin Wadsworth's going to win the race off pit road. There's Holmes, Weeks, Tucker, Corey Abbott as well, followed them in. Ethan Burrell actually does manage to come back out with Trey. Maybe it's a drive-through for speeding in pits.
I
it is a drive-through. Yes.
It is a drive-through, yes.
Yeah, the black flag is clear because it's on iRacing. By default, it's a hold. So race control clears that black flag and then administers a drive-through. So still a real kick in the teeth there for Ethan Burrell as we now have our second round of pit stops.
And that's what I mentioned, you know, that's the kind of mistake that just is really brutal, because that drive-through is going to be a huge penalty when he comes back down pit road a second time. We'll see how it sorts out for him as we see these green flag pit stops continue. I do not see any other black flags at the moment, while Ethan Burrell currently making his way back to pit road.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really annoying for Ethan Burrell. Honestly, I could tell immediately. I think he immediately on the brakes way, way too late. But now we have just 3 cars that have stayed out that are in this lead pack. That's Jonathan Cutlip, Paul Mikolajczyk, and Garrison Ogun. I did see, I presume that's what you saw as well, Zach, that a little bit of smoke near the apron in turn 1 and 2. Hopefully no mishaps have occurred. I don't think they have. We have remained under green flag conditions, but we have got a Robilis photo replay. We see Ty McIntosh and Sean Judson coming up on a slow moving... who is that? Ty McIntosh also starts to go around, I believe, the end of that replay. Not sure who that is. It's a Ford, South Shore or Shift? That's Connor Thompson in 30. Yeah. And Ty McIntosh as well. Drops it. But I think managed to keep it going.
Yeah, I think to add insult to injury for... Oh, hold on. Ethan Stanley had issues coming onto pit road.
Oh, goodness. It's all going off now. 3 wide off pit road. There's Connor Thompson, Gavin Higgins, and Carlos Acosta. Higgins immediately backs out of it. Sees no worth in it. But I think Connor Thompson's going to hit a bump. Yeah, that bump in the middle of that sort of white line does well to hold the brakes, though. That's a good double save, really, there from Connor Thompson. It snaps back to the right, and then with the left hand, then the right. This is Jonathan Cutlip now coming out of the pits. As we now have Ethan Stanley leading the race, but looks to be all by himself. And when we go to the Robilis instant replay, Ethan Stanley coming into the pits now, obviously driving for Racecraft, and that's not really how you want to enter pit road, Ethan.
No, I think he's going to have to come back down pit road. I think that was another one that picked up a drive-through, because that's obviously an unsafe pit entry. may have been speeding as well, if I had to venture a guess. And there you see him on the apron as the field comes roaring by. I wonder if there's a larger issue here for him to be. I mean, he's not even hustling the car at the moment, you know? I don't know if there's a larger issue here or what's going on.
I mean, it's a very uncharacteristic mistake for Ethan Stanley to make. He's a 4-time champion. He's just got his break at Racecraft Academy, which we know they're a team that can foster some top talent in the top levels of over racing outside Elite. So mechanical issues potentially with his wheel. He's looks to be taking 4 tires. Coming into the box here is Ethan Stanley. But this is really bizarre. He was going a snail's pace. Well, he's moving again now, and hopefully will now get up to racing speed, but he currently sits now in P41. Chad Frankfield's got Crump now, leading the way here just before the half-century mark here as we start lap 46. And I think the racing's starting to get a little more intense now that we have one green flag cycle done and dusted.
So here's the interesting part there. I'm listening in here on some of the conversation. I believe the problem for Ethan there, that if he pitted, he did stop the first time when he had the unsafe pit entry. Then he went to his crew the second time. Well, that's not serving a drive-through. So he might have to come back down pit road again to serve the drive-through penalty. And he is doing that now.
Yeah, we had an issue, I think it was last season, out California with Johnny Thomas. He had a drive-through penalty for the exact same thing. He sped into pit road, I believe, or exiting pit road. Got a drive-through penalty and was disqualified for not serving it correctly because he drove into the box, which didn't clear his drive-through in-game, and so the simulator disqualified him about 3 laps later. So that is Ethan Stanley now having to pit for a 3rd time in pretty much as many laps there, and that has absolutely wrecked his race early on here. He will definitely lose a 2nd lap now in, I would guess, maybe half a dozen laps or so, unless there is a yellow. So that really puts the 91 on the back for early doors here.
So now let's reset here with that green flag cycle out of the way. All those penalties done and dusted. Chad Frankenfield leading the way. Justin Vandermarl 2nd. Matthew Weeks 3rd. David Hooker 4th. Justin Wadsworth 5th. And you can see everybody singled out at the moment. Clearly this group of cars handled that green flag pit cycle the best. And this lead group has, I don't know, a little more than a dozen cars in it, I guess. Yeah, the second group starts with Gavin Higgins in the 16th position. And he's probably about a little more than 4.5 seconds back of this lead pack.
Yeah, so this lead pack that ends with Brent Jones, this is the top 15 here, all within sort of about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds here. They're all nicely spaced out. They're definitely not too worried really about their speed necessarily. They of course want to be going as fast as they can, but problems, Zach, potentially? Oh, Ryan Scholl blown up.
That's what I heard. Somebody blew up, but I did not catch who. And there you see it, Ryan Scholl with the telltale smoke from the car 4 of Little Eagle Racing. What a tough break for him, and early into the night for Ryan Scholl. There you can see, and he was that second car in line trying to help push this car, or this group rather, to try and catch back up, get back with the lead draft, and just force the issue too much we talked about earlier tonight. Just went a little too far trying to get that pack moving forward. And that's going to be the end of the Daytona 500 for Ryan Scholl.
So that is our first retiree of the evening. Ryan Scholl for Little Eagle Racing will finish 43rd and last. That is gut-wrenching for Ryan. And that is sort of what we talked about, obviously, with the engine temperatures, as you mentioned, Zach. But he was pushing that second group. We mentioned Gavin Higgins was in P16. Scholl was 17th, trying to get that second pack back up to the leaders. He had about 3 seconds to make up, but just forced the issue too much, got too hot, and eventually his engine gave way, and that is heartbreak. Just 50 laps in for Ryan Shold. But his teammate still flying the flag for Little Eagle Racing with just over half a century of laps completed now. Chad Frankenfield has done all 12 previous Daytona 500s in this league, is yet to win it, and will definitely be more challenged than ever with the quality we have in this field to finally get that victory. But of course, he did win the 13th running of the Indianapolis 500 after a long time of trying. So we'll see if number 13 really is lucky for him and he can take victory tonight in the 13th running of the Daytona 500 here in Elite. But of course, still a long way to go.
And you saw there the race format, a subtle reminder. We're closing in on the end of the first stage. Here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, there is not a yellow flag displayed at the end of those stages. We will stay green as long as there's not an incident coming to the end of the stages we saw at the end of both stages on Monday night in Rivless Photography Grand National Series. But certainly those stage points will be up for grabs, and quite the carrot dangling in front of these guys when we get closer to lap 65.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what these guys are willing to do for stage points, of course. 10 for the winner, 1 for 10th place, and they'll be sorted out in between 2nd through 9th. So immediate points on the line before the checkered flag is even out. That is, of course, going to incentivize these drivers to really, start to push a little harder, force the issue, give that bigger shot to their leading car, make that 3-wide move, that sort of thing, and that sorts of moves, as we saw on Monday night, as you mentioned, can create those issues that bring out incidents, bring out cautions, I should say, at the end of stages. But 10 points really in such a tight field where it's always the regular season finale is always sort of a blockbuster. We look at the bubble, we look at who's in, who's out, who's on the outside looking in. 10 points can be the difference more often than not. So every stage, not least in a Daytona 500, where there's definitely more up in the air with it being a super speedway, there's definitely an incentive to force the issue a little bit. And immediately, Chad Frankenfield's not going to like what he's seeing in his mirror, as that's all the Field Up and Pro Edge pretty much working together to blow right past him, led by Justin Vandermeer of Field Up Racing. Frankenfield from 1st to 6th in a matter of a couple hundred meters.
And he is definitely expressing a little bit of playful frustration on the radio. Fortunately, he's able to slot in the 6th position, which isn't the end of the world, but he's definitely got an eye on those stage points here in 10 laps. And which, look, 10 laps is an eternity at a place like Daytona, but he's hoping to definitely get some more of those stage points to start his season here tonight, and would have liked to be 1st instead of 6th right now.
Definitely would be, and he's going to find it very, very difficult to get back up there. He has, potential help from the likes of Zach Novak, Jesse Racines behind him. And of course, from any of the 5 in front of him, if he chooses to make a line towards the end, these guys may well take that, and that might get Chad back up towards the front. But you've got 5, 2 sets of teammates, all working together, 2 affiliated teams with Justin Vandermeer and Trey Holmes with Field Up Racing, David Tucker, Justin Wadsworth, and Matthew Weeks with Pro Edge. He's going to find it difficult with being the sole Little Eagle car left in this race now with Ryan Shold's retirement to get back up into 1st place as we now work our way past another couple of lapped cars. That is pole sitter Ethan Burrell pushing. Who is that he's pushing?
That's Ty
McIntosh. Yes. I think they'll be able to filter in actually here with how much speed they have actually.
Obviously, they both had some significant issues there on pit road. Hopefully, we'll be able to filter in, like you say. And in fact, Chad Frankenfield's got to try to hook up with them and push them to the front. Now, here's the great news for the 2nd pack here. That Gavin Higgins group was already closing in little by little. This has got to punch a bigger hole in the air, and I think will probably help them catch up. We'll see if that's the case or not. but they're probably pretty happy to see 2 wide in front of them. The group that is struggling right now is from 22nd on back, Jonathan Cutler, Blake Reynolds, Sean Judson. Before this pack doubled up, they were losing close to a second a lap. We'll see if this changes the math for them, because they are 20 seconds back at this point, almost half a lap.
Yeah, they have got definitely work to do, but the front pack being too wide definitely helping. And another thing is, with that pack led by Gavin Higgins as well, catching up, around about 2.5 seconds between Ryan Gable and Gavin Higgins. That does mean that, if these cars all converge in on each other, we've got about 25 odd cars in a lead pack. Towards the end of the stage, a yellow not at all out of the question, and that is obviously going to help everyone that isn't already with the lead pack get ground back, help people who want to take a wave around, get a lucky dog, get laps back as well, and that's really going to help a lot of guys, of course. But yellow is not necessarily what all of these guys want to see here inside having to go for the stage.
Something else to keep in mind is as this lead pack builds up, we currently have 3 cars 1 lap down in that group. Obviously, you just saw Ty McIntosh, Ethan Brell get lapped, and Jeff Green, after that misfortune early on in the race, is also in this front group, still 1 lap down. So those guys could be amidst these front runners fighting for the free pass.
Yeah, definitely. We mentioned at the top of the show when Green and Thomas both went a lap down themselves after their incident early on, that, the free pass fight isn't massive at that point in the race, but that was like 20 something. We hadn't even had a green flag cycle, but we've gone caution free for 60 laps now. We're coming to the end of the stage. We're getting to that point where actually the chance of a caution evidently isn't that high. Necessarily, obviously, cautions can be cautions, but it's looking like a fairly clean affair at this point. That just puts just that tiny bit more emphasis on actually wanting to get that free pass. And that just adds another element to it. Ty McIntosh currently in that position in 38th to get his lap back. Obviously, he was working with Ethan Burrell, but, if I'm really any of those guys, I'm looking to keep the rest of my, sort of colleagues in that lap down pack behind me at almost any cost, really, because I think it's a lot easier to worry about getting the free pass and not having to stay out necessarily for a wave around. The wave around can potentially, sort of, if people stay out in front of you who are on the lead lap, you find yourself going towards the tail end if you're having to do it all again. So I think the fight for the free pass is slowly becoming a bit more important as the laps wind down in stage 1 here.
Chad was very excited to be up there 3rd or 4th at the end of the stage. There was only one problem. Even though he was the one that set the stages, we ain't there yet. So now he's frustrated again. But he's got 3 laps to fix it.
He's got 3 laps to fix it, and there we are. We've got 3 cars to lap at the moment, led by Ethan Stanley. Stanley actually going 2 down, so he's the first car multiple laps down. Of course, had that drive-through penalty problem, and then the drive-through penalty itself. So he's really not had a good first stage yet, has Ethan Stanley, but they all filter past. And Justin Van der Merwe still in the lead. He's had a brilliant first stage here, controlling the pack, stayed in the top 10, I want to say, pretty much every single lap so far, and has worked with, his pro-age affiliates, the likes of David Huckleberry and Matthew Weeks, really well. And, he knows what to do on these super speedways. He won at Atlanta. That's where he got his first and so far only Cup Series victory, looking for his second tonight. He's always one to watch, really, in any series. And Justin Van der Merwe was really come out swinging in this first stage, expected to do the next 137 laps. But Trey Holmes now leading the high side as well, with a push from the 22 of Josh Adams, who isn't someone we've really mentioned a lot so far tonight. And we're going to 2 to go in stage 1, so these guys are about to start taking really all they can get in.
And they already got a little helter-skelter while they were lapping that group of Johnny Thomas and Connor Thompson and Mitch Xavier. they've kind of settled that out, but you know it's about to ramp up again with the stage points for real this time up for grabs at the end of lap 65.
Yeah, definitely, it's going to start getting a bit more, as you say, helter-skelter. I think it's a good way to put it. It's a bit like a helter-skelter. Left, right. There isn't a lot of consistency. Everyone trying to push as hard as they can, and that's getting these cars just unstable. But of course, you hit them just slightly square off, and you're talking millimeters here. But that could be the difference between all of a sudden one car near the front facing the wrong direction and an absolutely massive accident. But it would be cool if we could go caution-free here for the first stage, have things calm down, and then ratchet up again for the second and third stages. But so far, Justin Vandermeer, as we reach the white flag for stage number 1, still controlling proceedings out here with Matthew Weeks and David Tucker and Justin Wadsworth in tow. Ty McIntosh is there, 5th in line. He's a lap down. He's not a factor for stage points. He's running in P36. And the inside lane, still the place to be really at the moment, as Ty McIntosh sort of gets moved out of the groove there. I believe that's by Dustin Dill. We're now 3 abreast with Ty. Down the back straight, Justin Wadsworth pulls that line, picks up the run from the outside with Trey Holmes. Dustin Dill and Scott Crump's going to fill that hole. Running in tandem on the high side, that's Wadsworth and Holmes. No! I don't like what I'm seeing behind them. We're seeing cars go around. Ethan Burrell is facing the wrong direction. We've got a drag race for the stage winners. More cars go darting off. Corey Abbott's hard into the wall. Ethan Burrell with huge damage. And we've crossed the line, and Matthew Weeks, I think, has won the stage. We've had a massive accident, but we have stayed green.
And that was a definitely something that we'll have to look at here on the Revelist Photography Replay Machine.
Oh.
There was contact with Corey Abbott, and I believe Garrison... Oh, Abbott takes a hard hit into the outside wall. Garrison Hogan also hits Ethan Burrell, and that starts in front of them. Ty McIntosh was on the inside, and I believe there was contact between either him and Burrell, or Burrell and Frankenfield, or actually, no, that's Connor Thompson-Gardner, excuse me, another one of the white and blue cars that kind of got in an awkward spot, a little bit squeezed between Ty McIntosh and Chad Frankenfield. That leads to the contact between those two, which kind of caught Ethan Burrell in an awkward spot, and now we have seen the yellow flag displayed.
Yeah, so Race Control does have the power within about a lap or so, if iRacing does not throw the yellow for what is deemed a yellow-worthy incident on super speedways only, to voluntarily put out the caution flag. And I think that is well justified, seeing some of the hits that these guys took. Corey Abbott with a big wall of airtime. Ethan Burrell as well with significant bodywork damage as well. Stage 1 has gone really from bad to worse for Ethan Burrell, who started on pole and looked to really have the world at his feet early doors here. He's very much now find himself facing the wrong direction. We ran on board with Corey Abbott, who I think saw an opening, but Ethan Burrell just ended up right in his path, and Corey Abbott really couldn't do anything. His engine's still running despite that hellacious impact into the inside wall, but I fear that he's going to spend a little bit of time on pit road getting that car repaired as we have our first caution of the evening.
So now yes, let's take this moment to get a commercial break, because, I mean, if we saw how this went, we might not get another shot.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down. 3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge of your seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes, Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR. And now, NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
We are back here on the Elite Racing Network, one lap to green for our restart after our first caution. Just heard the call from Race Control Netcode, deemed the cause of the incident there involving Corey Abbott and Ethan Burrell, among others. Take a quick look there. You see the purple number beside Trey Holmes. He currently holds the fastest lap of the race here. And of course, new for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series here in the 2025B season, just like the real life NASCAR series. One bonus point on the offering for that fastest lap right now, 45.442. The fast time for Trey Holmes in car 23, who will line up on the inside of row 2 for this restart.
Yeah, definitely. So that is effectively a stage-ending caution there. Came out on lap 66 there, with Matthew Weeks taking all 10 points here. I believe is electing to take the outside, unless David Tucker beat him off pit road while we were under commercial, which I think, judging by the fact the 90 is a little bit ahead, I think that is what happened. But regardless, it's a Prize Racing front row, with Trey Holmes and Zach Novak occupying row number 2. David Tucker has control of the field. We're going to go on the green, and David Tucker, probably with a little bit of a bigger gap than he would like, he's going to keep his pin, which soon going to have a horde of cars coming at him with that run there. Quarter second, the gap back to Trey Holmes, but that is going to shrink quite rapidly here. Trey Holmes with help from Chad Frankenfield. They may well be pulling out when they get to the 15, as Ethan Burrell and Connor Thompson race for position behind them. Trey Holmes tucks in behind David Tucker alongside Chad Frankenfield, so David Tucker keeps the lead. Ryan Gable now leading the outside lane, heading into turn 3 for the first time on this restart.
And the math doesn't quite work. I don't even know why I bothered doing the math, especially when I say there will be no math. But it didn't quite work out to make it a fuel strategy palooza with the timing of that caution. Everybody's got to have to pit before we get to the next stage. And you're not really dancing with one of those numbers to cut away a pit stop between here and 200 should it stay green. It won't. But definitely a good chance to reset everything. And just a note there, Connor Thompson getting the free pass under that caution. So he is back on the lead lap. Your car is 1 lap down. Jeff Green, Johnny Thomas, Ethan Stanley, Ty McIntosh, Ethan Burrell, and Mitch Javier. Corey Abbott, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, actually, he just exited pit road. So I guess he was saying he had 10.5 minutes of repairs. I guess some of that was optional. So he is back on track, and we'll see if he can stay at least fewer than 6 laps down.
Yeah, of course, that 6 lap down rule that is in place for the top 4 divisions, not including the 2003 Cup Series, which is simply a one-off sort of detached series from the main 4 of the 6 lap down rule, is that if you go 6 or more laps down at a super speedway, your night is done, that you are parked. So while there are certainly differing opinions on that rule from different drivers, I think in all, it's a rather inoffensive rule that does give these drivers more incentive to get back out there, even with damaged race cars, to stay in the fight for as long as they can. And that is seen with Corey Abbott, 42nd and last for the moment, 3 laps down, but making sure that car still is running for as long as possible to try and make sure that he still has a dog in the fight as long as possible. Speaking of that, Ryan Gable now finding car 01 in position number 1 for the first time tonight, pushed by the 11 of Matthew Weeks, who's now going to dive to the inside of him. Ryan Gable tried to make the block, had to eventually bail out of that one, unless he got left reared into turn number 3 there, but it's going to get picked up by none other than Zach Novak coming out of turn 4, so that may have actually worked in Ryan Gable's favour. But
yeah,
that was sketchy.
That was definitely a sketchy moment. Keeping an eye on a couple of things. Right now, Harrison Talon having a little bit of a connection issue, but hopefully he'll stay with it. He is currently displayed on the track at the moment. During that caution, we had some issue with Brent Jones. You see he is 2 laps down. He made it to pit road. It wasn't a throughput issue, but it showed he did disconnect and reconnect. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but he is back on track, but not in this lead draft. So I imagine he will go a 3rd lap down if we don't get caution. But the car should be intact. So will be interesting to see what the deal is there on car 89.
Yeah, Brent Jones and Harrison Talon both being failed by their internet is definitely something of a water is wet news story. Seems to be something of a constant for those 2 drivers in this league. Never with the strongest connections on the grid, and sometimes that does end their races. Brent Jones definitely been pegged back a little by his internet problems, but still finds himself 2 laps down, still with a dog in the fight, as we say. So definitely still not out of it. Corey Abbott, though, his progress is going to be derailed somewhat. He's about to go 4 laps down as Matthew Weeks and David took a shoot by the 21 Lightning McQueen car of Corey Abbott, who's going to stick nicely to the yellow line. He's going to stay right out of the way, but a couple more of those and Corey Abbott's night is done. He needs a yellow just to get more of that damage fixed.
Yeah, it's definitely uphill sledding right now for Corey Abbott after being involved in our first caution of the evening, and definitely the driver most heavily impacted by that caution. And it has started the 2 and 3 wide racing further back in this pack.
Yeah, definitely not the progress that Corey Abbott was seeing, and yet another lap down, but still, we're looking at the lead pack on the lead lap here, and it's Toyotas 1, 2, and 3. Matthew Weeks, David Zucker, Trey Holmes currently occupy the podium, but Chad Frankenfield, coming back up towards the front of the pack, pushed by none other than Justin Van der Marel, who we haven't really mentioned in about 30 laps, which for this race at the moment is a record. He's had a brilliant night so far, and currently runs still inside the top 5, although that is now under threat from Ryan Gable and Zach Novak, who are making something of a resurgence on the higher lane. But still, the theme really of tonight has been the inside line is the place to be. These guys seem a lot more organised, a lot more packed up, and a lot more easy pushing, as David Tucker with another shot to the back of Matthew Weeks, really making some good progress there. But Gable now managed to get past Jack Frankenfield, does drop down. That unleashes Zach Novak as leader of the outside lane, pushed by Justin Wadsworth, his fellow Toyota there, part of the sort of Pro Edge and Racecraft affiliation that they've got going over there in that particular group, and so those two will no doubt work together to a great effect and find themselves near the front before too long.
We've all heard of the announcer's jinx, right?
Yes.
So I think that was a pre-announcer's jinx. I didn't even, when I got the next chance to speak, I was going to talk about how I swear, obviously it's not a huge deal at the super speedways, everybody runs the high side at some point, but I swear, no matter what track we're at, the closer Ryan Gable is to the wall, the happier he is. And before I even got the chance, he's like, actually, I'm going to jump down low here.
I think they're starting, I think the commentator's curse has gone too far. I think they're just tapping into our thoughts. And started to preempt those, so that is scary. I'm now not only going to watch what I say, but also watch what I think, which is something a little dystopian to think about. But regardless, we move on. So lap 80 of 200 in the Daytona 500. Matthew Weeks and David Tucker still 1 and 2 as they have been for quite some time. Trey Holmes in third place. Ryan Gable, as we mentioned, likes to be close to the wall, but is now riding that yellow line quite nicely. Speaking of yellow, second caution of the evening tonight, and that is a big one through turn 3 near the back of the pack.
I'm not really sure what happened here. We'll maybe get a look at the RevLimit photography replay machine. I did not get a good look. I heard Gavin Hibbs scream. Oh, that might have something to do with it.
I think Kyle Hanshaw facing the wrong way at 180 miles an hour could be the cause.
Yeah, it's behind Hibbs. So I guess he just saw it in his mirror. That is Hanshaw, as you have correctly called out. Hooked by Seth Rawls, it looks like. Just a little bit of a stack up there on that bottom lane, which may have actually started in front of Hibbs. But ultimately, the domino effect catches Kyle Hanshaw first, and that brings him up the hill in front of the 36 car of Thomas Coonan, and that's got to collect all these cars in the outside lane. You see Justin Wadsworth, you see Dustin Dewar. Ethan Stanley may have got a piece of it. Ethan Brill hasn't missed anything all night, neither has Corey Abbott.
Disco rave going on. I think iRacing
Johnny
beginning
Thomas
to fail us
involved.
with rendering the cars. But a lot of cars involved in that wreck regardless, even in the aftermath. Mark Rubialis just piling in at the last there. So we'll make a call on that particular incident. But yeah, that is, I think, something you'll see a lot of as everyone now comes down pit road led by Matthew Weeks. I think we'll see a lot of stack up effects, just catching drivers out. Seth Rawls wasn't really along the same sort of trajectory as Kyle Hanshaw. If it was a little straighter on, probably would have given him a shot. Waller would have been fine, but I think just tagging him in the right rear, just happening to be on that line at that time is really what started that whole thing and collected a lot of innocent parties there. So that's our first real big one of the night so far, I'd say.
Well, we've got a chance. Let's get in another ad break here, and then we'll be back for the restart.
Now let's hear about Blue Egg Marketing. Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing picker. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting with your customers. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big.
Have you ever just forgot to hold the brakes during a wreck? Are they just not able to pronounce your name in a race?
Paul Mikolajczyk.
Have you ever been wrecked by Chad? Hi, I'm Ray Bracey, and I'm here to share with you quick shifts. Watch all the highlights, lowlights, and other shenanigans in the top racing leagues, such as the Elite Racing League, and... But don't just take my word for it.
Before quick shifts, I was depressed.
I wasn't able to relive my favorite moments from each race. Now with quick shifts, I can go out there and listen to all my favorite banter from the race while seeing all the crashes and good racing once again.
I don't remember life before quick shifts. I had to listen to Cameron Proke and Ty Mac and Cheese recap Oscar every week in the 3-wide TV booth, but now, thanks to quick shifts, I actually enjoy my Oscar recaps.
So try quick shifts. You suffered through it one time, why not suffer through it again? Side effects of quick shifts include constipation, diarrhea, dizziness, dry mouth, abnormal heart rhythms, internal bleeding, numb tongue, unfiltered honesty, loud hiccups, laughing uncontrollably, mandatory dancing, midnight munchies, blue urine, red urine, no urine, and many more.
We are back here at Daytona, and just as we come back, you see the ruling from race control there on the screen. No tally, just counted towards the stack up there on the inside lane, leading to that incident. That brought everyone down the pit road under this caution, pretty much. Kind of in that magic number there, right on the 80-ish lap mark to hopefully get some guys home here the rest of the way in, I guess that'd be 2 more stops, around 120 and around 160. So that's where the math stacks up there. We'll take a look real quick at our fastest lap of the race so far. I don't know if it has changed or not. It's nobody in our top group. Looks like it is Ty McIntosh, actually, at a 45.285. So, trying to make the most of his evening, as he is currently 1 lap down still, but able to log that fast lap of the race so far.
Yeah, definitely making the most of what's been a suboptimal evening, really, so far. But car number 10, of course, every point matters, and even just the smallest bonus point, even when you're finishing sort of outside the top 30, top 35, you know, 1 or more laps down, still is a bonus point at the end of the day, and I think Ty McIntosh would definitely take that with a smile on his face, that is for sure. But 2 guys that will to be smiling at least for now are the 2 Pro Edge Racing drivers of Matthew Weeks and David Tucker. They will again lead the field back to green for this restart. Pro Edge Racing really flexing their muscles in this first half of this Daytona 500. They're going to come into the restart zone once more. Matthew Weeks is going to hit the loud pedal. The green flag is back out, and it's a lot more of an organised start, really, everyone. No big gaps like we saw with David Tucker last time out. It's a very even start for the Pro Edge boys, and they're going to be pushed by Chad Frankenfield and Trey Holmes, respectively. Tucker with just a hair on Weeks. Frankenfield's going to try and push Weeks back even Stevens with David Tucker. David Tucker, of course, looking for his first Daytona 500 race victory. Trey Holmes looking for only his 2nd career Elite Racing League victory in the Cup Series. Chad Frankenfield looking to push Weeks again back to the point with help from Josh Adams and Justin Vandermeer. Gable right to the back of Trey Holmes as well. As we look at the front bumps of all of these cars, you see everyone side by side, 2 by 2 throughout the entire field, all the way back there to Mitch Javier right at the back of the pack. There's 43 engines all roar past the grandstands here at the World Centre of Racing. Just 116 laps to go. That's a lot of racing still to do, but we are nearly halfway done. Only 2 yellows, only 1 retiree so far. It's been a fairly clean Daytona 500 for now, but who knows what the second half may hold, Zach.
Oh, certainly a long way to go still in this one. And you see a little bit of dicing on that second lane. David Tucker was leading it, but Trey Holmes almost got a nose to his outside there coming out of turn 2. I think Trey Holmes is at pickle at the moment. He's trying to push David Tucker, but he is getting shoved by Ryan Gable into 0-1.
That is the outside lane, really trying to get moving. I think what we're seeing is, we had it big time in the development series last night. The inside lane was just working so much better. For a lot of these guys, the truck series and the Grand National series with those specs of cars, they're often very even. They've been a stalemate sort of thing for as long as certainly I can remember, in terms of how they race on Super Speedways. But the next gen and the ARCA car, what we've seen is that the inside lane is absolutely dominant during this speed week. So I think Ryan Gable was really just trying to get that line move and get himself clear, which is of course harder being the 3rd car back. That shot to Trey, who himself was giving that shot to David Tucker, but it has paid dividends. All 3 of them now lead the inside lane. That is now going to give Scott Hunt and Blake Reynolds free rein now on the outside. I am quite frankly stunned that we have not really mentioned the reigning defending Cup Series champion, ex-Cup driver Blake Reynolds, only up until lap 87 of this race. But here he is, pushing Scott Crump right to the point, and he's going to get shoved off by Scott Crump, and he's going to save it. But oh my word, he is not going to be happy with that. He's still drifting through 1 and 2, keeping his foot in it, and that has undone all his hard work getting up to the point. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that soon, but again, we saw it in the development series. We saw a little bit on Sunday and Monday. We've seen it before tonight that brought out the first caution. Too many of these blocks gone half wrong that so nearly end in disaster and people getting shoved off. We're going to see an overhead view here. This is riding with Blake Reynolds. He gets clear of David Tucker. He's going to shoot down into turn 1. Scott Crump's going to make the block. Not necessarily too reactionary. Blake was there, just about keeps the nose in it, comes back on the banking, has to again catch it. Brilliant reactions from everyone behind to not pile into each other. Blake's car again comes on the banking, again has to save it. Full-blown drifting through turn 2. Eventually comes to a rest coming off of the pit lane. Wow. Sketchy, but if anyone's going to save it, it'll be Blake Reynolds.
Let's not undersell. A, that might be the best save we see all season in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series.
Oh, yeah.
B, he did such a great job saving that car. He didn't lose. I mean, he's not in the lead pack, but he has drafting partners. He's not 15 seconds back right now. So, really, an impressive situation there from Blake Reynolds to save that race car and save his chance to stay up front. Obviously frustrating after you had mentioned he had worked his way from the rear to the front along with a lot of those Channel 199 cars. But man, what a save. There's something going on with Kurt Gibson, but I'm not quite sure if it's concern about lagging or what the deal was. There was definitely some communication with him from race control.
He's moving out of the way of this 6-car pack now, led by Gavin Higgins. Blake Reynolds actually to the outside. I'm not sure. I mean, it was a little offset there, not necessarily sort of in one groove there. Blake Reynolds is now going to push, I believe that is that Jaden Racimus in that golden yellow car. As they're now all passed by, yes, in the number.
Yes.
Jaden Racimus for Abbott Motorsports now. He's moved there. For the start of 2025 B season, he's going to be pushed by none other than Blake Reynolds up towards the point here in this second pack, but I think they're probably going to want to just drop back down to the inside. We'll see if David Westergreen in the 9 gives them any space to do so. Kurt Gibson going to latch onto the back of this pack. Blake Reynolds is going to file in. If there is a gap, Blake Reynolds comes back up, and both of them are going to then slide back in. So that is now your 7-car pack trying to catch back up to the leaders, including Blake Reynolds, 6th in that pack, being led by Carlos Acosta and Gavin Higgins. But attention now focuses again on the lead pack, led now by Jaden's dad, Jesse Racimus.
Jesse Racimus out front here in the Daytona 500. There you
He's
see.
won here before.
He has, and right now you got about 3 cars out front on that inside lane. Ryan Gable in second, Scott Crump in that 3rd position in the 90 car, and Ray Bracey up to 4th in the green and yellow number 7. Another guy we haven't spoken about a lot this evening.
Yeah, he's quickly shifting up towards the front of the pack here, as that's Ty McIntosh's car on the screen. Do not be deceived. The adorable cat on the side of that number 7, that is Bojo's cat. And that is Bojo's paint scheme there. We see Ray Bracey there on screen. That is the first use we've seen of the webcams, of which we have received from a few kind drivers tonight. That is Ray Bracey locked in and loaded on that 92 of 200 here in the Daytona 500. Looking to make Daytona Raytona here with just over a century of laps to go here. He finds himself 4th on the inside.
Raytona. That's pretty good, William. I'll give you that one.
The English are quite good at making up puns on the spot, I think. It's one of our strengths.
I don't have a witty comeback to that, I gotta be honest. I tried and I failed, and I just created dead air on the broadcast. Nothing good happened there.
That's a rip. Well, I'll tell you, some good things are happening, and that's clean, green racing. We have, I think, shaken off the gremlins of those couple caution periods. Everything looks to be back in order. It's been a very, very clean race so far, still led by Jesse Racines and Ryan Gable. Scott Crump there in third. No, it's not Zach Novak. Is that on the high side? That's Thomas Coonan. I was looking for his name, but he is a lap down, leading in the outside lane there. With Ty McIntosh as well, who's also a lap down, leading the outside lane. So a lot of these guys on the outside are not on the lead lap. Looking for them on the scoring pylon, but alas, we now know roughly where they stand. They've got a good run coming down the back straight here. The first lead lap car in that outside lane is David Tucker there. He's third in line, trying to push these two back up towards the point to, of course, get himself further up. And here is Ty McIntosh's webcam as well. The second webcam that we've seen tonight. The focus, the tongue slightly hanging out of the mouth, a telltale sign that he is absolutely locked in there, concentrating on every tiny input that he is making with that number 10 car as he tries to push Thomas Coonan upwards and onwards in this pack. Currently in 36, Sam McIntosh. Oh, that is Ethan Stanley, the other.
I know you're not used to seeing him in a red and black car. Easy mistake to make when we've watched him in a blue egg blue car for forever and 7 years, but that is Ethan Stanley as part of the move to Channel 199 Sim Racing in that red and black 91.
Yeah, Thomas Coonan is the one in the other red and black Toyota with the black stripe down the middle. So that is my mistake. We'll see him here. We're in this secondary pack for Abbott Motorsports. There he is, just peeking out behind is that his teammate Corey? That is Corey Abbott there, just ahead of him. So a little Abbott Motorsports get together there in that second pack. Of course, former driver as well. Brent Jones affiliated with those guys as well. So they will no doubt be all working together to try and get themselves back up towards the front of the pack.
And we had a little bit of a stack up on the outside lane here. I think somebody, either Tooker or Holmes, got a piece of the outside wall, and it really caused the outside lane to fall apart, but they've managed to keep it clean. And I think they're just going to settle down into 2 wide now, reset, and give it another go.
We've now got teammates working together now on the outside lane. Zach Novak and Ethan Stanley. Now teammates at Racecraft Academy and at Channel 199 Sim Racing, and immediately they are flying up towards the pack. We saw as we were coming through turns 1 and 2. The inside lane about 10 car lengths ahead of the outside lane. All of a sudden that's about 3 as Ethan Stanley shoving Zach Novak up towards the point with Ty McIntosh and Paul Mikulajczyk in tow, as well as Garrison Hogan in between them. So Racecraft Academy all really nice and bundled up together. Sans Blake Reynolds, we see him there just at the back of your picture, no doubt working his way back towards the sharp end of the field. We're just about to tick off the halfway point. A century of laps nearly completed here at Daytona, and Jesse Racines controlling things nicely with help from Ryan Gable.
You know, either a smart or a foolish person once told me there's a lot of places you can sneak around if you just look important and carry a clipboard. And I think that's Ty McIntosh's approach right now. If he could just look like one of these Channel 199 guys while they're trying to push Ethan Stanley to the front and get him on the lead lap, he might be able to do the same thing.
Definitely a valid way of no! The leaders are wrecking! Ryan Gable pushing Jesse just that little bit too hard. Zach Novak's hard into the wall, and the field has flown apart from that, but no yellow. No one facing the wrong direction. And now the caution is out. Oh, and I see smoke out of the back of that 80. I believe that's Jesse anyway. Oh, that's heartbreak if it is. He was doing so well. We're going to look on the replay. This is Jesse already. Oh, he takes a secondary impact from Ryan. I think it sends him into the wall. We're going to look at the replay here. Ryan Gable coming with a full head of steam. There's already, to be fair, some rear damage on that 80 machine. I do wonder if that unsettles it just ever so slightly. Just not quite square. Tank the 80. Hits the 42 of Zach Novak, who's going to crunch his right front on the wall. The 19, the 10 will get into each other a second. And then a third impact between Jesse Racines and Ryan Gable. And this is going to be a big one. brakes locked and held, and a massive impact into the inside wall for Jesse Racines. Smoke billows out of the car. Suspension, no doubt, damaged. Bodywork crunched to bits. And that is heartbreak for Jesse. He was doing brilliantly up at the front there for a long, long time.
And I think with the timing of the caution, what actually did happen there right after I said it, Ethan Stanley and Ty McIntosh did appear to get on the lead lap ahead of those leaders before the caution was waived. I'm not sure who's going to get the free pass here. Maybe Ethan Burrell, depending on if he got a piece of that incident. But as it stands right now, 91 and 10 back on the lead lap, and I do believe Ethan Burrell's going to be your free pass here.
And that's definitely good news for those three, and I suppose good news for us. 3 more cars on the lead lap, although I don't know if we might lose 3 or more cars from the lead pack here. Jesse Racines really quite torn up here. We see Justin Vandermeer enter his pit box, the second one, of course, behind that of Ethan Burrell, taking the outside pole in open qualifying. Jaden Racines also pits in front of him. I believe he's in pit stall, the hypothetical 44th pit stall, which is just the first pit stall again. As Justin Vandermeer now exits the pits with company from a couple of Racecraft Academy cars, as well as Michael Goodman and Mark Robilis. Everyone getting a final dash of fuel. This will take them to the end of stage 2, lap 130. As we reach the halfway point, lap 100, Scott Crump now leads the way.
Yep, Crump won the race off pit road there, and we'll get out in front in car number 90, Chad Frankenfield, as you can see on the pylon in the second position. Josh Adams will move up to third, Jonathan Cutlip fourth, Matthew Weeks fifth, Ray Bracey sixth, Dustin Dewar seventh, Frank Fody eighth, Garrison Hogan ninth, Harrison Talon in 10th. So that's how the field stacks up at the moment at the halfway mark. And as you mentioned, this will get us on the fuel run to the end of the second stage. We take a look at the fastest lap award. We need to sell a sponsor for that. And currently it's Dustin Dewar with the fastest lap at 45.272 seconds.
That's a quick one there from Dusty. Of course, we know how good he is on the super speedways. No doubt manipulating the draft in some way to get that lap time on the board. And of course, that's a crucial bonus point for Dusty in his potential playoff push there in car number 32. Has been in this league for many, many years. Yet to take a win in the Cup Series after nearly 200 or just over 200 starts, as we mentioned at the top of the show. To green now though, led by Scott Crump and Chad Frankenfield. So we'll look to the green with 99 laps to go, as some of the guys who are taking repairs now just filing out of pit road so as to not lose another lap. They will rejoin the tail end of the field just before the restart. Everyone else gets organised. And what will be interesting about this restart now is that we are seeing a lot of, not necessarily new faces up towards the front. We've seen pretty much all of these guys up near the front, but we're seeing new combinations, I suppose. Scott Crump and Josh Adams, you haven't seen work together. Chad Frankenfield, John Cutler, we haven't seen work together. Matthew Weeks settling in now at third on the inside lane. Harrison Talon now in the top 10. Justin Dewar, Frank Fody, not people we've really mentioned much. Inside the top 10 now as well, so this will be interesting to see how these guys now work together, how much, I suppose, how well they know each other really on these plate tracks, how well they can work together and see how far they can push their lines, or whether it ends in disaster again. We'll have to wait and see for the end of this caution period, but I tell you what, it's been a very, very clean race. 3 cautions inside 100 laps is not bad going really at all. We'll have 29 laps to go until the end of stage 2, and that is what these guys are now going to be laser focused on as the pace car lights are now off. So the safety car will pull in at the end of this lap, led by Scott Crump and Chad Frankenfield. We'll see which of those two can get their lines going the best. They'll be pushed by Josh Adams and Jonathan Cutler, as we've mentioned, with Weeks and Bracey behind them. Will now take the shot left onto pit road for Fred, the pace car driver, will hand over to only the flag man, of course, as we enter the Geico restart zone. Green flag is back in the air, and it's in the inside line with the slightly better start. Got Crump with about a car length on Chad Frankenfield, but now with a push from Cutlet, Frankenfield making a resurgence back. We'll see if Adams has anything for Scott Crump. So already sort of offset 3 wide near the back of the back going into turn 1. And as we look at the front, it's Crump with the car length on Chad Frankenfield with a push from Adams. But now coming off the hill at turn number 2, Frankenfield will have the run, but not enough, I don't think, to get a move done into turn 3. The inside lane again looking to be the place to be.
I think you're right. The inside lane's still pretty strong, but you know Chad Frankenfield has got to try to make this outside lane work. Right now, sitting 5th on the scoring pylon with the help from Justin Vandermarl and Ray Bracey behind him, trying to get that outside lane moving forward, but it has not so far on this restart.
Yeah, they are down about 6 or 7 car lengths there with Garrison Hogan now 5th in the race here, just ahead of Chad Frankenfield, who leads that outside lane, with Josh Adams working beautifully with Scott Crump. A very nice tidy push there. Weeks as well now has the confidence to push Adams into Crump, only adding to the momentum now that inside lane has got. Vandermeer now looking to get clear of Chad Frankenfield. Nearly does going into turn 3 at the scoring pile, and switches just a tiny bit there. Dustin Dewar as well now potentially looks above Matthew Weeks, not necessarily for a move, but just to sort of get his whereabouts here. Garrison Hogan 5th in line, minding his own P's and Q's, as well as Justin Vandermeer. Cutlip trying to push Chad Frankenfield, but those two don't look particularly hooked up. The outside lane simply not working as well. There's not as much energy, not as much organisation. They have those 5 cars there pushing together nicely with Frankenfield, Cutlip, Gracie and Foti, but again Harrison Talon and company just a little bit detached and fragmented behind them. They do now have though a little bit of momentum with another shot from Jonathan Cutlip. Frankenfield now to the point here, taking the lead of this race here. We'll see if he can get clear of Scott Crump and find his way towards the bottom of the track. Cutlip's going to again give him a shot coming out of turn 4, and he is going to come down to the bottom of the track. Chad Frankenfield now leads the Daytona 500 with just 26 laps to go in stage number 2.
And now it'll be up to Jonathan Cutlip to lead this outside lane with Ray Bracey in tow. Frank Foti is the 3rd car in line behind them. Not quite a teammate situation. Well, yeah, actually it is a teammate situation with Bracey and Foti. Those are South Shore entries, with Frank Foti making the move over this season.
The teammates working together on both sides of the racetrack here. Not so much on the bottom side, although there is sort of a pro-edge field-up racing thing going on as ever, I suppose. But Jonathan Cutlip now being pushed by South Shore's Ray Bracey and Frank Foti, as you mentioned. Harrison Talon with Fueled Up Racing has got his teammate Trey Holmes for company there just behind him. But still, the inside lane, the place to be, with Chad Frankenfield and Scott Crump now working together well. We'll see how much longer that lasts. As a little bit more Houdini magic from iRacing that quickly fizzles out, thankfully. And normal programming. It's not to the side of Frankenfield, and nothing going that time before the 90. He stays tucked up behind the 15, who continues to tick off laps led here in the great virtual race.
And Jonathan Cutlip found a hole in front of Garrison Hogan to pair up those teammates on the inside. That puts Ray Bracey leading the outside, but you can see how far back that lane has fallen. Definitely losing energy, and car 7 falling back as a result, hoping he can find a hole to slot into there. But it's going to be tough at the moment for those guys on the outside lane.
It's definitely looking that way. The South Shore team aren't hooking up the way I think we would expect them to. Frank Foti just needs to start getting those shots into the back bumper of Ray Bracey and fast. He pushes in past Michael Goodman. Now next target is Justin Vandermeer. Needs to tick off car by car by car. Now for the teammates up on the higher side, they're pushed as well by Harrison Talon and Trey Holmes over at Fueled Up. But still, Chad Frankenfield does lead. It's quite comfortable really now. Scott Crump feels no real obligation to push Chad Frankenfield all that hard through the corners here, into the corners, out of the corners. They see that the inside lane naturally has a little bit more energy. A little paint reset going on for iRacing. I'm sure that will quickly resolve itself. But Chad Frankenfield is still leading comfortably here with no real risk of losing that lead to Scott Crump or anyone behind him.
Yeah, I mean, the outside has completely died, and now Ray Bracey has got to jump to the bottom in front of Trey Holmes, but man, they were losing a ton of speed there. I'm not sure what happened exactly, but boy, the outside lane was just suffering there, and now Trey Holmes has jumped in front of Frank Foti. He's got to see if he can make it work, but boy, that was a tough struggle there for the outside for a little bit. Now another outside group has formed up further ahead. Oh!
Yeah, a little bit of a stack up there, but as you mentioned, Zach, yeah, some new faces up towards the high side there, led by Jonathan Cutlip now, with Fuel Up Racing's Jonathan Cutlip leading the way there. We've got Gavin Hibbs for Strictly Stock there, Pro Edge's David Tucker, and then Racecraft Academy with Logic there, just rounding out the top 10 with his teammate Garrison Hogan just below him there in P9. Trey Holmes, Frank Foti, and Harrison Tamil joining the party, and all of a sudden that looks like a much more organised outside lane. And with 11 to go, Scott Crump and Chad Frankenfield might have something to think about now with regards to using their bumpers to get those cars moving again, because Jonathan Cutlip is coming, and he's coming at a rate of knots.
The shadows starting to get a little longer as we get into the second half of the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. There you see that second lane trying to form up there behind Jonathan Cutlip. Gavin Hibbs just calling out he was starting to overheat a little bit, pushing Cutlip, so he's had to back off. I'm sure that's going to stack up this second lane and create some of that bobbing and weaving as they try to stay away from each other's bumpers.
Definitely looks to be that way. We are now inside 20 to go for stage number 2. As a reminder, the stages were lap 65 and 130. And of course, we're on lap 111 in this 500-mile capture the flag contest, which is still currently led by Chad Frankenfield and Scott Crump of Little Eagle and Lake Milmo Motorsports respectively. Hibbs dives down, Holmes dives up now to lead the outside lane, but with no immediate help. His nearest friend is Jonathan Cutlip, but that's a couple car lengths back, so he's going to lose out to Van der Merwe, potentially to Hibbs and Mikolajczyk as well before he receives aid from his friend in the 5. A shot now to the back of Trey Holmes, who now leads the outside lane in P9. Again, another desperate bid here to get some energy going in the outside lane to try and dethrone that seemingly dominant inside lane that we have seen all race long. The outside just really not able to get the same energy that the inside lane is, and still struggling to make a real indent in that lead. So Chad Frankenfield still looking comfortable. Crump pushing, but doesn't have to push too hard. He's not going to risk wrecking Chad Frankenfield when he knows that that line just naturally, with no real driver intervention, of course they have to push somewhat, but it almost seemingly without trying, that inside line just is naturally more organized, is naturally more energetic, and is naturally quicker. The outside lane now nearly falling out of the top 10 there. You see Trey Holmes just in 10th place on the bottom of the scoring pile on there. So the inside really, more and more so than we've seen earlier in the race, looks really like the place to be getting stage points at the very least. I think we won't be seeing moves really from any of this top 10 now until, I would say, until at least lap 125.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but especially once they get about 7 or 8 rows back, it's like that outside just collectively puts on a parachute and falls backwards. So I'm very odd to see, because I feel like, you know, in the duels, you could make a few more moves and make that outside lane work a little bit better than this. Certainly the inside was the lane of choice, but it didn't feel like the outside was this sluggish as we've seen really just in the second, or the start of the second half of this race.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure what it is, because it's not the fault of any one driver. We've seen a myriad of drivers, some of the best in the league, try and lead this outside lane, and they just can't go anywhere. It's bizarre. I mean, Gavin Hibbs leading the outside lane. He's nearly a second behind Chad Frankenfield. That's an absolute eternity on a plate track. It's really quite something that seemingly without much invention. I mean, it's not like this inside lane are all packed up together. You know, there's a fair amount of gaps between them, and they just fly ahead. You know, it's really weird that I think it's a head scratcher for not just us commentators, but I think the drivers as well, really trying to figure out just why that outside lane won't move. And I suppose the more that continues to happen, the more drivers will want to get to the inside, which only worsens the problem because there's less cars to generate energy for the outside lane. So I think the outside lane really are starting to fight a losing battle here as they continue to bleed time and bleed places. They're now well over a second behind.
Well, something that isn't helping now, you just saw the third lane develop. Blake Reynolds and Ethan Stanley hooked up. They had Ethan Burrell with them, but then they kind of hung him out on the outside. But for a while there were 3 of those Channel 199 cars on that outside lane making it work. And now Zach Novak and Ethan Burrell are going to have to try to slot in to the middle lane, but there was nowhere for Novak to go there for a second. He's got to still be stuck on the outside.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a sketchy position, but now we will see just how much sort of driver input now this requires in terms of getting the outside lane some energy. We've got 2 of the best drivers in the league, full stop, now leading this outside lane. Blake Burrell, of course, to be in the Cook Series. Ethan Stanley, I think before Blake and Zach came along, probably one of the most dominant drivers in the league, and I would say he would still probably give them a good run for their money even now. Obviously joining their team over at Racecraft Academy, he's getting all the pointers from some of the best in the business, so if you thought Ethan at Lake Norman was good, I would say just wait until you see what he can do over at Racecraft. But now we are starting to see, now with Garrison Hogan as well, also part of that Racecraft stable, now really starting to get some energy going. I think these guys are probably the 3 best, alongside, I suppose, Zach Novak, that could really get this outside lane moving. Just watch for Garrison Hogan. He's leading the outside lane. Watch for his name on the scoring pile, and he's now just got up to 6th, and now is pushing Matthew Weeks, another super speedway specialist here. And I think now it's going to start to get a little interesting with 13 to go in stage 2 at the line. Josh Adams now pulls out behind Scott Crump, and now these guys really have to start working together here to try and get their own respective lanes moving.
And if there's one thing we know in the Elite Racing League that always happens, it is Scott Crump and Chad Frankenfield working together well.
Yeah, that well-known thing that happens literally all the time. Chad and Crump absolutely love each other on and off the racetrack. They have been working together beautifully up to this point, of course. But now, Josh Adams now leads the Daytona 500. Matthew Weeks now is in 2nd place, and they're both going to file down to the low side, well clear of Chad Frankenfield. That is going to give the emphasis again to Racecraft Academy. Channel 199 trying to get back up to the point, led by Garrison Hogan, Blake Reynolds, and Ethan Stanley. Trey Holmes and Jonathan Cutlip with them, but still Adams leads with 12 to go in stage 2. Still all to play for. 10 stage points for the winner at lap 130, 1 for 10th place, and they'll of course be sorted out in 1 point increments in between those positions. But now it's Matthew Weeks up into 1st place momentarily. Adams will now take it back. Weeks now coming off the hill with the run will presumably take that position back with a big push from Garrison Hogan and Blake Reynolds. It's neck and neck now at the front, coming to 11 to go in the stage.
And let's not bury something here. Ethan Stanley, don't forget, after that nightmare of a green flag pit cycle, was, I mean, just buried in the field, and now he is back in the top 10 and fighting for these stage points here.
And that is the sort of tenacity that not just wins you races, wins you championships, and that is something that I think we're going to have to watch for. That is the never say die attitude out of Ethan Stanley. You know, I mean, that happened, what, like 20, 30, 40, that nightmare happened. So in less than half the race distance, he's now back briefly inside the top 10. Brilliant from Ethan Stanley to get back up at the rate that he did. Of course, taking advantage of cautions, no doubt, but still a certain amount of skill is on display there to get yourself back in the fight like that. and of course pushing his teammates immeasurably well here up at the front. But now we are inside 10 to go in stage number 2, and again the inside just getting that energy back. There was a brief neck and neck moment where the outside lane was just there, and a couple cars, Weeks and Adams, were able to then drop back down and take their positions up at the front. But now Josh Adams again clear by just a few car lengths up at the front, inside 10 to go. But now Paul Mikolajczyk, I think, is going to have something to say about it.
Indeed, he is going to have something to say about it. Trying to get up there on the outside lane in car 77. A whole lot of red cars with yellow numbers on that outside lane between the Channel 199 teams. Well, one of them just jumped down to the bottom, but you have Matthew Weeks mixed in there as well. And I think as good as it was, we might be seeing that second lane start to lose a little bit of its muscle.
I think so as well. Mikolajczyk was as far as 300s behind Josh Adams. Now, just over 3 tenths, I think. Comes up, which he does not. He is going to now run with this inside lane. I think the Racecraft Channel 199 team is starting to fade just a tiny bit unless they start to get some energy going. No doubt they have to push a lot harder to get sort of the same results. So maybe Weeks struggling with some engine temperature problems potentially. Trey Holmes now, I think that was jumping up. Yes, he is in that baby blue Jordan's number 23. He'll pick up Paul Mikolajczyk. He'll lose a couple spots and lose. Actually, no, he won't. He will quite nicely hold on to P6 there. And is picked up by Mikolajczyk. Garrison Hogan now is going to pick up that top lane. That caused a little bit of a stack that pegged them back a few hundreds, but they are now again nicely organized with Trey Holmes up at the front. Mikolajczyk, not with particularly high engine temperatures, should be fit to push now as Justin Vandermeer now comes up. Again, trying to get himself back towards the front as he has been really all race long here. A good performance here so far from Justin Vandermeer with now under 100 laps to go. 7 to go in stage 2 when we come to line this time, but still the inside line controlling proceedings here.
One thing I've got to mention here, you had notably Justin Wadsworth along with a couple of those cars a lap down pitting right now. They had taken the wave around under that last caution. The problem is now they've gone through that 40-lap fuel run. They're going to have to pit under green flag here.
Yeah, that is not what they want to be seeing, but I think, well, we'll see whether or not at the end of the race if that is a valuable trade-off, taking wave around, because you can get your lap back, but at the expense of having to stay out when the majority of the field is pitting. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out for them over the next 76 laps. Hopefully it comes good for them. A yellow would of course be very helpful to them right about now. But now with 6 to go in stage 2, the energy is going to ratchet up as everyone looks for the tiniest gap to fill. No doubt, Chad Frankenfield, we know he's one of the most aggressive drivers in the league. He'll look for any opportunity for even just one extra stage point, but now we're seeing the Racecraft Channel 199 guys start to hook up again, led by Garrison Hogan and Paul Mikolajczyk. Blake Rounds there as well. Trey Holmes now moving up. We'll see if any of the other guys in this front 5 join them. Justin Vandermeer elects not to this time. Frankenfield still pushing Josh Adams hard there in the 22. Scott Crump in the 90. Does he have the time to pull up into the outside lane? He does not. He is now he's just about still clear this time. Dua as well. The outside lane, they get the pace on the inside lane, but they can't quite hold it long enough. It's really difficult for this outside lane to get going, and I think this really is going to be won by whoever makes the right move on the inside lane at the right time. The likes of Chad Frankenfield, Scott Crump, can they make the move in time to take the run out of turn 2 or turn 4 in the final lap of this stage to get the move done? Because I don't think that really there's anything that this outside lane can do, because seemingly no matter who is in front or who's pushing, they just can't get the energy.
No, it has been such a struggle, and like you say, we have seen some of the best in that outside lane, and for whatever reason, it just has not really consistently moved forward. And now you see a couple more cars trying to jump to the outside and make that work. but I don't know if they're going to be any more successful. Now you have, well, I was going to say Ethan Stanley and Matthew Weeks are leading it, but just as quickly, Matthew Weeks bails back down to the inside with help from Trey Holmes.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone is just starting to get to the in Anderson Dua, though, sees some energy coming from the 11 of Matthew Weeks, and he comes to pick up the 11, but they're only a two-car tandem until Ethan Stanley gets there, and Matthew Weeks is going to bail back down to the bottom. He's now the 5th car on the inside, just behind Justin Vandermeer there, with Fueled Up Racing as they come now to just 3 laps to go inside stage number 2. This is where it starts to get a bit energetic. The aggressiveness, the energy will begin to ratchet up just that little bit more. When does Frankenfield, when does Crump, when does Vandermeer go forward here? Justin Dewar leading the outside lane, pushed hard by Ethan Stanley and Garrison Hogan. What can they do to get back up to the front here just in the nick of time here? They're coming to 2 to go in the stage this time. Looks like they're finally getting some energy. Dustin Dewar briefly up to 3rd as Ethan Stanley pushing as hard as he can.
Two laps to go here in the stage. Right now, Josh Adams, Chad Frankenfield leading that bottom lane. Dustin Dewar leading the top lane. Can they make it work for just a couple laps and get those stage points?
We'll have to wait and see. They're definitely going to have to start pushing just as hard, if not harder than they were before. But again, you have to be aware of those engine temperatures. Ethan Stanley struggling to get to the back bumper of that 32. Meanwhile, you see it's like a big accordion on the inside lane. Adams into Frankenfield, into Crump, into Vandermeer, into Weeks. All 5 bump drafting each other and they are flying off ahead. Ethan Stanley now back to the bumper of that 32. He's going to have to push him harder than he's ever pushed him before if he wants to get him back up towards the front. Start the side draft as well. See Dewar getting right onto the door of Matthew Weeks. Just needs to break up the energy, get them unstable. Now, white flag in stage 2. When does Frankenfield, when does Crump make the move? Can Vandermeer do anything? Can Weeks do anything? He's boxed in on the low side. Adams still leads. Frankenfield backing up into Crump, looking for the run off of turn 2. How does Adams defend? Crump to the outside first. That's going to box Chad Frankenfield in. Frankenfield now forced to push. Vandermeer with a shot to Frankenfield. Adams goes high, then goes low again to block both lanes. Scott Crump now charging towards the front. We are neck and neck between both lanes, coming to the end of the stage. Frankenfield into Adams as hard as he can. Dustin Dewar trying to push Crump. Frankenfield boxed in. Adams loose off the corner. He saves it. Crump is going to try and get there. It's going to be a photo finish to end stage 2, and just by a hair, Scott Crump is going to take stage 2, take 10 stage points for his troubles. We're going to stay green at the end of stage 2, no yellows. And with just 70 laps to go, we are now neck and neck for the race lead. Scott Crump takes stage 2. Dustin Dewar now in the lead on the outside, pushed by Ethan Stanley, and they're going to have a bundle of energy. All 3 of them clear, all 4 of them now ahead. Paul Mikolajczyk into P4, Blake Reynolds there as well. This is all of channel 199 now, working together up at the front, and they are flying. Jonathan Cutlip there as well with David Tucker and Ethan Burrell. The outside lane finally getting some energy. You only needed 4 teams of basically professionals to get it done, but they're finally clear. All 4 of them down to the low side of the outside, now led by Jonathan Cutlip.
And that worked out about as well as it could for that Channel 199 team. Now you see them all on the bottom after being able to make their way forward and battle for those stage points. And now you see Jonathan Cutlip leading the outside lane in car number 5. He's got David Tucker behind him. Ethan Burrell, talk about another guy who has had to make a big comeback tonight. He's now 3rd on the outside lane in car 37, going from the front as the pole award winner, the 40 Raceware pole award winner, to the back, and now back to the front.
The last to first challenge for Ethan Burrell. A brilliant comeback, no doubt, for him. We'll see if he can keep it in first now, or in and around there, for the next 68 laps. As this race now led by Jonathan Cutlip. These outside lane guys finally starting to figure it out, as they're finally starting to get some energy. I think what they needed is just to get a car length clear, as well they got nearly 4 clear with the Racecraft Academy guys that now occupy the bottom lane. But now all three of these guys are now pushing super hard, trying to get all three of themselves clear. Jonathan Cutlip is going to get clear, is going to jump down, and you now have Jonathan Cutlip, Ethan Stanley, Garrison Hogan, Paul Mikolajczyk, and Blake Reynolds down on the bottom of the racetrack. That is about as stacked as it gets. David Tucker now leading the outside lane, pushed by Ethan Burrell.
And now you get the stages out of the way and it turns towards lap 200. Everybody's starting to do the figuring in their head. We're probably closing in here in the next 6-7 laps on the start of the next green flag pit cycle. You definitely want to get to it at least 140, so you don't put yourself in a pickle, for later on. But really, the further you can go, the less fuel you can take when you do pit around lap 180. Should this race stay green, if you can shorten up that last pit stop by taking less fuel, that could be a huge difference.
Every gallon that you don't have to take, absolutely critical. That just shaves those few tenths of a second off your pit stop time, and that track position can be all important when it comes down to the end of the race. We're coming to 65 laps to go this time, with David Tucker leading the race now, pushed hard by Jonathan Cutlip, Ethan Stanley in third, Garrison Hogan, Paul Mikolajczyk, and Blake Reynolds make it a racecraft 3, 4, 5, 6 on the low side. Dustin Dewar in position number 7, Crumps, Adams and Burrell 9th and 10th, with the top 9 all on the inside line. So that just shows the energy that line is now able to get once again. But I think, like we saw with the first green flag pit stop cycle on lap 40, I think guys will now start to seek refuge sort of on the inside lane, just to make pitting just a tiny bit easier. But of course, when you're less than 70 laps away from the conclusion of a Daytona 500, you're a bit less inclined to let people in on the low side if you're already there. So this will definitely prove to be somewhat difficult for a handful of these guys, as around, as you mentioned, Zach, around 5 or 6 laps away from another green flag pit stop cycle, which is going to be all the more important than the first one. You have to be absolutely perfect, because Ethan Stanley and Ethan Burrell had their own troubles on pit road. They're able to come back. You don't have time to come back. If you lock a rear, lock a front, get a penalty, slide your box, do a single tiny thing wrong in this green flag pit stop cycle, your race is done. You're not winning. So this is now absolutely critical.
Absolutely, especially if the danger when you get into this position is once you get that first green flag pit cycle. You saw it the first time around, right? It almost broke the field in half, even just amongst the guys who didn't have major calamities. If you get 2 green flag pit cycles in, you might have a group of 10 guys fighting for the win, and they're going to be less likely to have an incident that brings out a caution. So certainly there's going to be a lot of pressure on this upcoming green flag pit cycle to get it right, make sure you're still in that lead pack for these final 60 laps.
Definitely, you have to get it absolutely bang on, and now you're seeing everyone in single file. That's Ethan Burrell still leading the outside lane. He's about in 14th place. It looks to be roughly for the 37, so they just again got to get further and further back, pushed by Zach Novak. There is a gap just about between Rebelos and Hibbs. That gap now closing. There's still a handful of guys that are on the outside here that probably sooner rather than later want to find themselves on the inside, just to make pitting that much easier. As you mentioned, if you're going to be on the outside and you're going to stay there, you have to be confident that the guys on your inside, you can go 1 lap further at least than they can, because you don't want to be running out of fuel in the middle of the track and end up stranded, as it were. But still, we are remaining clean and green for I think a lot longer than people anticipated, with still 35 cars on the lead lap here, with the last of them being Sean Judson in the 97. So a brilliant performance from all these guys, including of course this little 5-car pack at the back, led by Michael Hossack in P34, just trying not to the lap stay on the lead lap, fight for if there is a caution. Jesse Racines still out there as well, despite his massive impact into the inside wall a little while ago. You see Brent Jones and Corey Abbott also had their own incidents earlier on, and they're still in the fight. They are still running around 3 and 4 laps down respectively, but still have a dog in the fight for now. But coming to 60 to go this time, Zach, the start of lap 141, and you'd have to imagine we're really only a couple laps away, if that.
It's this time. We are already hearing the call out. 66, I believe, is called out. 90. We're going to see some guys duck down pit road this time. Almost all your leaders.
And who is the first onto pit road? It's David Tucker with a nice tidy entry into the second to last pit stall, as that is literally everyone. Wow, that's come past your screen there. We now focus on pole sitter Ethan Burrell. He's going to pull nicely into pit stall numero uno. Garrison Hogan there as well. Harris and Talon just in front of him. They're all going to take 4 tyres and as much fuel as they can to get themselves as far into this race as they can. Now left are 4 solitary machines: Dustin Doer, Scott Crump, Joshua Adams, and Chad Frankenfield. They presumably will come down this time, if not in the next couple of laps. They all take a sharp left onto pit road, as do the other pack that just caught up to them just at the end of that, led by David Westergreen. Doer with a little lock up there.
Oh, the collision!
A collision between Doer and Crump. They're not going to be happy with each other. Doer has to back it all the way up into pit stall 43. They both had similarly placed pit stalls. They were both going for the same bit of track, but Doer's was before Crump's. Doer was ahead of Crump. So that's where that whole deal came from. Hopefully neither of them lose the draft. I fear for Doer, Crump got out a little bit before he did, but he does have Gomera there with him and Rabiler, so I think he'll be okay. David Westergreen comes out just behind this front 3 of Crump, Frankenfield, and Adams. As Adams and Crump are racing off pit road here, Crump will have to concede that position as the apron is only 1 wide and Adams just about had a nose. They sort things out between them all. Frankenfield, for now, is your new leader of the Daytona 500 on lap 142 of 200, but that won't be for much longer because here comes David Tucker and everyone else to come steal the lead at about 200 miles an hour.
We're going to have a drive-through coming up for the 44 of Michael Goodman speeding on pit exit.
I'm pretty sure he's been on the lead lap pretty much all the race, hasn't he? And
yeah,
that's tough. He's still looking for win number 1. He is the, I want to say, 3rd or 4th most experienced driver in the Cup Series at or near 200 starts. Oh my goodness. Pushing the limits there again.
Second, this is start number 209.
Second, so yeah, Doer's on 208. So yeah, that is gut-wrenching for Michael Goodman. He needs a caution. He needs one now to stay on the lead lap. Otherwise, he is absolute toast because he's coming off pit road and Tucker and Stanley already barreling into Sun 3 at nearly 200 miles per hour. And they haven't left Frankenfield in the dust at all. He's back in 8th, but of course all 7 of them sort of blew past him without really a whimper from any of those other 3 that now make up the rest of the top 10, and they are all now single file. I think for the next 30-40 laps until their next green flag pit cycle, these lot are just going to be working together, trying to create a gap now to 11th on back, which is of course led by the 10 of Ty McIntosh, who has also done extremely well to get on to the lead lap, but that's a good 3 seconds back from Scott Crump. So I think what these 10 need to do now is just to try and create a gap and then fight amongst themselves once the green flag pit cycle is over, unless of course there is a yellow.
Yeah, these guys definitely want to work together. The fewer hands you can have in the pot, the better it is for all of you at this point. These guys want to work together, keep that advantage they have. Oh, trouble further back. Ty McIntosh has spun. Not sure what happened. I didn't quite see it. I mean, we had just talked about trying to get that second pack going. I'm sure he was asking for the big push, but it may have been just a little too much or not quite in line from his teammate and broadcast extraordinaire David Westergreen. And that's got us in Ty McIntosh. Does he hit the wall? Or
Hard.
does he? No, that's definitely going to hit the wall. That's a huge hit on the nose of the number 10 3-wide television Chevrolet entry out of South Shore Stable.
And he hit the cone. We face through it on our screens, but he hit the cone, and we don't tolerate cone abuse on the Elite Racing Network. David Westergreen just gets into the bank of Ty. It's a similar thing to what we saw earlier. Goodness, I forget who now, but a similar sort of incident, just not catching the car in the right place, about half a car width, too far to the left for David Westergreen, and that just sent Ty McIntosh completely off course, as we see trouble on pit road exit. Oh dear, Jesse trying to dodge his son, Jaden there, ends up going for a little 270 there. That's not what Jesse wants to be having at all, but that's also not going to bring out a yellow. Neither is Ty's crash, because it was a single car crash, single car incident, well off the racing surface. That's the 10 and the 80, both troubles with either teammates or family members.
And I like to say, with friends like that, who needs enemies? I mean, we had the teammates, and then we had father and son having problems here as we close in on 50 laps to go.
Definitely, and we look, closing in on 50 laps to go, like you say, lap 147, so it'll be 53 to go when they reach the stripe, and this lane, inside lane, looks beautifully organised. They again pull out, so David Tucker now just cracked 4 seconds over the second pack leader, David Westergreen. It looks very wonderfully organised. It's got David Tucker holding the straightest line possible, Ethan Stanley administering a steady, hard, consistent push, Mikolajczyk giving Stanley all the support he can by staying nice and close, the other 7 just making sure there's no big accordion effects, and they are just, it's like a well-oiled machine in that top 10. It is quite astounding, honestly. Their progress will be derailed somewhat, having to go to the outside to dodge Brent Jones, but Brent Jones obliges nicely, goes down to the apron, and everyone files in nicely there. Still, Ethan Stanley just a steady push to David Tucker. There is absolutely no rush to go anywhere fast. They again all file back into the top 10. Plus JC Racimus, actually, who's there in between Frankfurt and Adam. So this is 11 cars strong. And they are just pushing each other very smoothly, very consistently, very quickly, most importantly.
And it sounds like they're trying to choreograph a switch in that second pack to get somebody other than David Westergreen leading that pack. He is concerned he might have some damage that is slowing down the efforts of that second group.
I don't see any immediate crumplings on the front of that 9, which I'm presuming is what he's concerned about after his contact with Ty McIntosh, but regardless, Higgins with a little shock to Frankfurt, he says, right, you're the leader now, and get going. Dave Westergreen now slots into the 5th car in line there, just behind Ryan Gable. He's going to get a little push from Ray Bracey to get him back up to the bump of that 0-1, and this big long train of cars can start to get going again. So essentially now, the job of Gavin Higgins is to do what Ethan Stanley's doing, better than Ethan Stanley's doing it, which in itself, as a sentence, sounds very, very difficult, because Ethan Stanley's very good at a lot of things.
It doesn't sound right when you phrase it like that, does it? Right? Do anything better than Ethan Stanley. Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, no, but Gavin Higgins is no schmuck. He can do it, so he has to push Frankfurt absolutely as hard as he can to close that 4-second gap between himself and race leader David Tucker. But we are now inside 50 laps to go here for the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500, and so far so good for Pro Edge Racing's David Tucker. He leads by a half a tenth over Ethan Stanley, who's given him a nice push with support from all of his teammates behind in that pack.
And while we have, dare I say it, a docile moment here, let's give a shout out to Paul Mikolajczyk. We've talked a lot about the silly season. We've talked a lot about the big names now on that Channel 199 team with the 2 pro drivers. This is a guy that, if memory serves me right, didn't even make the Daytona 500 last season in one of those hotly contested open spots. He's been able to work his way into a charter position for the B season and has really stepped up his program. Even at the second half of last season, we saw him making those gains, and now here he is running in third in the Daytona 500. What a great run for Paul Mikolajczyk, or as he is sometimes referred to affectionately, Paul Bunch of Letters here in the 77.
Absolutely. There's a bunch of darkness in that face cam, kindly provided by Paul Mikolajczyk there. A well-known driver in the community, not necessarily a star-studded professional like his compatriots Ethan Stanley, Blake Reynolds, Garrison Hogan, those sorts of guys. He's brilliantly talented on the rallycross scene, though, that much is true. That's where he mainly runs in terms of his Racecraft Academy sort of obligations there, but very, very good on the stock car stuff as well. Has run in another couple of leagues that I've been involved in. Very, very welcome person, very nice personalities to be around, and is fairly fun to race, so it's always good to see those sorts of guys up towards the front. As you mentioned, failed in his first running of trying to get into the 500, as many people do in their first run as an open car. It's notoriously difficult in those Daytona duels, but now got himself a charter and he is doing good with it. With less than 50 to go, he's in a podium position, pushing Ethan Stanley and David Huckleberry. But while we've got 50 laps to go and just about some quiet, someone in the infield care centre that we are now going to release into the broadcast booth, we have got the driver of the number 10 for South Shore Racing, Ty McIntosh. That all kind of went very wrong very quickly after seemingly a brilliant effort to get back up on the lead lap. What happened there?
I was literally finished a sentence telling Frank that when David got hot, that David was going to move, and then Frank could shove me. And it just, I don't know, we just weren't lined up. I can't even be mad at David. I mean, we were doing our best to try to catch that front pack, and it just went wrong. So, it's unfortunate, and especially after working that hard to get back on the lead lap and working with Stanley and getting a break. I was hoping that was the end of our trouble, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw you up near the front, and you had that incident that dropped you back. But how was that sort of, because we didn't see you much, obviously, in your comeback towards the front. What were those first sort of 140 laps like for you in terms of, what set you back and what brought you back into the fight eventually?
I think the checkups and just, there's not a whole lot to go with this next-gen car. Like, you could go 3 wide, but unless you have a huge run, it's not going to do much. If you're on the outside and you're trying to catch the front pack, you almost need somebody to pull up in front of you to start the momentum. It's not just going to build on its own. So it's been tricky. This new package has been weird. I feel like we were starting to get a grip on it. It's just unfortunate.
Definitely. Well, anything from Zach Evans before we let you
go? We'll make sure to get those plugs in. Like William said, you definitely had a strong showing to bounce back from the earlier incident to get back up in near the top 10 before that last incident.
Yeah, I felt like we did a good job. The 3 Wide TV sponsorship and Weekend Wisman, everybody that's on the car, Binks Designs, Bojo for painting it. It was looking like it was going to end up good. Unfortunately, it didn't. I've had a heating pack wrapped around me all night. I've had pretty bad back pain, so fighting through that. But other than that, it was a decent night. I'm just hoping that David and Frank and Bojo can pull this off.
There you have it, Ty McIntosh. Unfortunately, early ending for him tonight, but a strong showing throughout the evening. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of the evening and cheer on your teammates, Ty.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for putting on the show.
So that was Ty McIntosh, driver of the 10 for South Shore Racing, and not much has changed while we had a little chat with Ty. Still the same leader. Just a few laps later, David Tucker now leads Ethan Stanley in this front pack, which is now about 13 cars strong. I think we've taken on another couple lap cars. But there you see that back pack just catching up ever so slightly, I think. They're definitely, unless it's just how the camera angle looks, they definitely might be bearing down just a little bit. There are some drivers. I see Michael Harsack immediately standing out in that Rabalis Photo Toyota, who isn't necessarily in this lead pack on position, but does find himself in and around that sort of area on track, albeit a few laps behind the leaders. 4.3 seconds the gap between David Tucker and Gavin Higgins, who's leading that second pack. So the lead pack does seem to be the faster pack at the moment. And I think now these guys are starting to go into a bit of conservation mode. I do wonder Because initially what we were seeing is Ethan Stanley maybe giving 1 or 2 shoves on the straights to David Tucker with Mikolajczyk supporting. But now it's not even really that. I mean, Stanley now does shove Tucker into the corner. But I think Ethan Stanley, just from what I can see from the naked eye, is almost just doing what he can to save a few droplets of fuel. Potentially to help him towards the end. But even still, all the while, David Tucker is burning all the fuel here because he's presumably full throttle for most of the lap. So this kind of all really hinges on him. I suppose he almost decides when they pit because he has to key up, say, right, I've got 4 laps of fuel left. Ethan Stanley, Paul Mikolajczyk and whatever, they may have 6-7 laps left just from saving in the draft and whatnot. But unless they almost want to throw David Tucker to the wolves, as it were, or if they want to make sure that they're all pitting together, they essentially have to go on sort of the lowest common denominator. Who has the least amount of fuel? We have to go with them. So we'll have to wait and see just exactly how that develops. But obviously, David Tucker's going to be burning a lot more fuel than anyone behind him will be. As well as just that Ethan Stanley doesn't need to push as hard. They're naturally pulling away, at least incrementally, from the pack led by Gavin Higgins in 11th place. So I just don't think there's any real need to risk it too much. We've seen it a dozen times already tonight. One slightly uneven push and you go and head on into the inside wall, creating an incident that doesn't need to happen. So I think Ethan Stanley, Paul Mikolajczyk and everyone behind is just taking it easy, and David Tucker is just trying to run a straight line to make things as easy as possible for everyone behind him.
And I think it's going to be really interesting, how much are these guys further back in the pack saving? I think you're right that the Toyotas are pretty much committed to each other at this point. All the Pro Edge, the 199, they're probably going to have to, unless, like you say, they want to just throw David Tucker to the wolves. I think they all have to stick together on this final green flag pit stop. So then this group from Scott Crump on back to Chad Frankenfield, Josh Adams, Gavin Higgins, and obviously some of those guys aren't in this pack, and that's the tricky part, specifically for Crump, Frankenfield, and Adams. Do you go with them as well because you're in this lead pack, or do you try to do your own thing? They stayed out the extra lap last time, but they also got kind of broken up in the process because of the collision on pit entry. So how does that work? Are some of these lap cars around tail end of this group able to work with you? Some questions to answer here in the next 20 laps or so if we don't get a caution.
Yes, there's still, despite how little of this race really left to go, we're only we're coming to 38 to go this time, still many question marks in the air. There's another green flag pit cycle to go, so there's question marks with regards to that. Mistakes can still happen, they likely will. It's natural in such a high pressure race. They'll be pitting with 20 to go. If you had to be perfect the last 2 times, you have to be more than perfect this time to get what you need out of this pit stop cycle, because your race is absolutely done and dusted. If this next pit stop cycle doesn't go your way, you do not have the time to get back up and make anything happen of it unless there is a yellow. But with how spread apart the field is, everyone is single file because they're all trying to either get ahead or stay ahead. So everyone is single file, no one is trying to wreck each other. That'll be even more of the case when everyone again sort of fragments and splits apart after a second consecutive green flag cycle. You have to be absolutely ultra perfect, and I think a lot of that not only comes down to how you're driving your car, and brake at the right points, don't brake too hard, don't overshoot your box. I think it also comes down to communicating with everyone else. We saw Scott Crump and Dustin Dewar. They were both going for the same bit of track because one's in pit stall 41, one's in pit 43. But the one who's in the closer pit stall is ahead, so you have a collision. It's those sorts of things that can really curtail your progress. Thankfully, it hasn't ended too disastrously for either of those two. Where would Scott Crump be potentially if that didn't happen? It's very, very fine margins that you're going to have in these races, and when you fall short of them or when you overstep them ever so slightly, it really, really bites you. Still, this second pack well formed up, but evidently pushing a lot harder than the first pack, and they don't seem to be getting a lot done with it. Harrison Talon pushing Gavin Higgins for all he's worth, through the corners, into the corners, out the corners, doing a really, really good job, but the energy from this first pack is just almost insurmountable, I think.
Yeah, I think these cars up front are just working well enough together that it's got to be hard for that second pack to close the gap, and it's definitely been challenging for those guys that have lost this lead draft, and even the guys who aren't on the lead lap but are part of this pack. Michael Goodman, of course, the speeding penalty on pit road. Michael Hosek is in this group, and they're doing their part as well. So that's helping add fuel to this lead group.
Yeah, definitely. I think all signs point to this really behind here. So, I mean, time is going to continue to run out and run out and run out. We now got Ryan Gable trying to push Gavin Higgins up to the point. 2 perfectly clean cars. They've managed to break the 4-second mark, 3.93, 0.92 as we enter turn 1. Gable looking like a fairly formidable pusher. Seth Rawls giving some good support behind the 0-1 there as well, but you have to keep that up a lot to even get close. Seth Rawls pushing Gable into Higgins. That's the sort of energy that they need. But of course, can they keep that up? Not necessarily just as drivers in terms of making sure to administer that perfect push every time, but can your car take it? Can your engine continue to do that for laps on end until you barely latch on to the lead pack up ahead of you and you can maybe finally let off? Like, his windshield is full of just Gavin Higgins' back bumper. He can't see a thing, and he is making those engine temps climb and climb and climb. He's going to pull out just to get some air, give Seth Rawls a crack at it. And I think this is what they're going to start doing. They're going to start leapfrogging now. Get a big run, pull out, let everyone else go, and then eventually get back in. So Seth Rawls now going to push Gavin Higgins for a little while. Going to push him hard. Going to try and push him true. But you see, Justin Vandermeer, Gavin Hibbs, Trey Holmes and Ryan Gable soon as well will get right up to the back of each other to try and give just as much straight energy, and we'll all issue, because all they can do at this point is almost all or nothing for this second pack if they want even a chance at winning this race.
And that's such a tough situation. Oh, there you go. You see a switch there, but such a tough situation to be in because you're doing everything you can in that second group, right? You're pushing as hard as you can to try and close that gap or put yourself in position through this final pit cycle. But it feels like no matter how tight you run that yellow line, how close you stay to that guy in front of you, it's just not working, and you see the laps ticking away. You've devoted, I mean, the 3 hours tonight on top of all the hours prepping for this race, and you're just watching the sand filter through the hourglass, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh yeah, it's something of a sinking feeling, but I'll tell you what, Higgins and Vandermeer, they might be that last almost blessing, because Higgins is now under 3 seconds behind David Tucker, which is of course only 2 seconds behind Jesse Racines, beg your pardon. So I think these two are now starting to really work well together. Hibbs giving some good energy to Vandermeer as well to push him into Gavin Higgins. Higgins right on that yellow line as close as he can. Has to come off it just a little bit to make things easier for the guys behind him. Can't quite run on the paint like you would do in a quali lap, for example, or something like that. But you see through the trial painting that yellow line, and we'll see the scoring pylon cycle through 41st down to 44th, and then it'll come back to 11th through to 20th. We'll see the gap again between Higgins and leader David Tucker, 2.58 seconds. So they are starting to chip in ever so slightly. That's only a second and a half back from Jesse Racines. They might have a last gasp go at it. Half a second, nearly a full second in the last laps. I think they might just about get there and have a crack at it. We might have a big race on our hands now. I think they've just about got it now. They might have a chance. Jesse Racines falling back as well is going to be helping them.
Oh, pit stops.
And they're all pitting. Wow. Earlier than expected.
They definitely didn't run it out, right? They have split this 60-lap run in half. I don't think we had that on the bingo card. But what they're going to hope to do is this group's working together, so they're going to try to all pit together here, get the pit stop done and dusted out of the way, get back on track. It's going to take more fuel to go 30 laps to the end, so we'll see how this works out.
Definitely, we'll see who wins the race off pit road. But now Trey Holmes leads this race with Ryan Gable in second place. But this is a wild concoction of different drivers on different laps and different cars and different teams. You see Michael Harsack and Michael Goodman working together. They're not on the lead lap. Trey Holmes and company now will fly into the pit one lap later after the lead pack. So we will see how that works out for everyone, whether they can work as efficiently as the other guys did. Trey Holmes going to filter in behind Ryan Gable, because Ryan Gable has to turn in just a little bit before Trey does. Johnny Thomas as well in with them. Inside 30 to go now. This is the money stop. We hear that phrase all the time. I think Trey just missed it by a hair. Hopefully I think that is just about as much as you can afford. I think he'll still latch on with Seth and all those guys, but yeah, that is about as much mistaken you can afford, and he had to move back like a centimetre. So those are really all the margins, but I tell you what, I wouldn't mind a red flag right now, because Harrison Talon is leading the Daytona 500 with help from Ethan Burrell and Carlos Acosta. What a podium that is.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get the rain over in turn 3 right now for this top. I mean, this top 5. Dustin Dewar 4th, Mark Rebelis coming off the win in the RevLimit Workshop Development Series last night in 5th. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
It's spitting in turn 3. I can feel it. I think we need a yellow, maybe a red. This is awesome. Harrison Talon and all these guys, I'm sure they were still yet to pit. So we will see in a handful of laps. I'm sure these guys begin to come down pit road. They might be running the tanks dry at the end of this to about lap 180, which is where we expect really everyone else to go in. But to be fair, all the lead lap guys, or the 2 leading packs that we were talking about for the majority of that run, they still have a good 10-lap deficit over the end of the race. So that's to say for any green, white checkers and that sort of thing, of which we have 3, should we require them. But Harrison Talon and Ethan Burrell, they're all staying out just for the moment, as well as everyone behind them. Actually, this top 10 are all working together in that pack. Actually, Zach Novak in 9th. He was well up at the front and is now back there, courtesy of this little pit cycle. And will surely be looking to get back there before the end of this race. He currently runs P9 in this pack. Ethan Burrell steadily pushing Harrison Talon as we are just about a quarter century to go here. The ticker will soon read laps to go rather than laps out of 200, and that is when you know this, that it really becomes crunch time.
And, you know, that's an interesting point, not just for the people who have already pitted, but this group that is yet to pit. I'm sure a fair number of them, especially since we have gone green this long, put in just enough fuel to get to lap 200 should it stay green, and not a drop more. But maybe there were some guys that did put in a couple extra gallons in case we do get those cautions, in case we do go to overtime. They want to be able to go 210, 212 laps if need be, and that would have hurt you in terms of getting out of pit road near the front of your given pack. But if that keeps you on track for those late yellows when everybody else has to pit, that could be a race-winning move.
It definitely could be. This is what the NASCAR fanatics always talk about when they say that super speedway racing is like a 200-mile-an-hour game of chess. You have got a million different things to worry about, not least driving your car. You've got to make sure you're pushing someone correctly, getting pushed correctly, not wrecking anyone, keep an eye on your fuel, on your tyres, when to pit, when to stay out, overtime, all these different things. Oftentimes you're more worried about what everyone else is doing rather than what you're doing, because Harrison Talon and Ethan Burrell, they're now thinking about, well, what is Tucker's pack doing? What's Gavin's pack doing? Those 2 packs are worrying about each other. They're worried about this pack. You very rarely worry about yourself in a super speedway. Really, right up until about 2 to go when it's every man for themselves. It is as a type of racing like no other, which is what makes these races so impressive to win. We're inside 24 to go now. The ticker has switched over, like we mentioned. Harrison Talon still leads the way. We're with Ethan Burrell, so presumably they are running these tanks all the way till the very last drop. Like you mentioned, Zach, these guys, when they do fuel, assuming they take maybe 3/4 of a tank, they'll be fueled for as many as 3 green white checkers. And I think that could be a potential race winner. I don't know when the last time we went to all 3 green white checkers was in a Daytona 500 or really in any elite race. Come to think of it, maybe the last time we went to Martinsville we did, but I don't know. 23 to go now, still staying out. This is sort of a very download time because there's not really anything to be gained from racing each other. And we kind of have 3 distinct packs, all of which are running single file. So the racing really is not really racing anymore. It's more just ticking off laps until people have to pit or until a potential caution comes out.
And there you see, by looking at the interval between Kurt Gibson is 10th, and then Blake Reynolds is leading that second pack in 11th. And that second pack has been pretty consistently 0.4 of a second quicker. We'll see what it is here in about 20 seconds time, but you can see on average it's been about that. So the question for this lead pack becomes, can the time they spend on pit road cancel out the time they are losing on track?
Yeah, that is it becomes they say they're taking another 10th out. They will definitely fall behind this the pack led by Blake Reynolds. I mean, they are only 20 seconds ahead, but of course they have to pit.
Yeah.
So they will end up probably around 10 seconds behind, if not more, when they all then filter out of the pits. So I think what they are doing is prepping for a Harrison Talon. No, it's
yeah,
okay.
that was
internet issues again for Harry.
We've talked about that being an issue for the 8 car. That's not what you want to see from the leader. Anybody who watched Monday night saw what can happen when a car blinks out like that.
Yeah, there was a lot of sketchiness going on Monday night with the blinking, but Harrison looks to be just about okay. Yeah, this lead pack does still have to pit. They'll probably end up around 10 plus seconds behind when they come in. Speak of the devil, it's around 20 to go. They're all coming in. Harrison Talon.
There is no shot.
Oh,
there is no shot.
That is.
Spoiler alert: Harrison Talon speeding on pit road.
Oh my Jesus! And he's blown the pit box. Very Harry. With all due respect, that's so Harry. Inside 20 to go in the Daytona 500, Harrison Talon with a big fat speeding penalty. I think we both saw that. We saw Ethan Burrell slowing down.
It was obvious from the point he hit the brakes, right? That there was no chance.
That car's not slowing down. We saw Ethan Burrell hit the brakes and Harrison Talon not hit the brakes, and I'm like, I don't know about that one. So Harrison Talon will be serving a drive-through penalty within the next lap or so. That hands the lead back to Blake Reynolds with that pack now pitting. So 19 to go. Blake Reynolds is your leader.
Oh, we've got trouble. 500. Trouble in Carlos Acosta. I believe it's in turn 3. His car slid down to the apron. That might end up being a caution. We'll see what race control says. They have thrown the caution.
Oh, that changes a lot. What's happened? He's spun by himself.
Oh, so it was actually turn 1 or turn 1 or 2 here. But Carlos Acosta, did he hit that bump again? No?
I think he hit the track.
He hit the apron.
Oh, no.
In turn 1 on pit exit. So here's the rotten part of this deal. We mentioned Harrison Talon speeding on pit road. He was got. Oh, I might be wrong. This might work out.
To an EOL?
I was afraid he was gonna have to serve a drive-through after the restart. But if it's just an EOL, that's gonna work out pretty well for Harrison Talon actually. And I misspoke.
Yeah, I think it's because you can't serve drive-throughs under yellow.
Yellow,
It's a drive-through
right.
under green. So I think it's either to stop the game DQing him or because it's not intended that he serves it on a restart, unless it's like a restart violation penalty, that it gets turned into an EOL. Because that's usually what happens if a decision like that is made under the yellow. That's usually for restart violations. They become EOLs if they're not drive-throughs. So I think with Harrison not being able to serve his drive-through, I think it becomes an EOL. So that has worked out better actually for Harrison because it means that he probably would lose a lap if that stayed green. So he just gets to tag onto the end of the longest line, but remain on the lead lap.
So now this changes everything. Because A has bunched all these cars back up, and B, because they're bunched back up, and now it's 18 laps to go into Daytona 500. All the niceties we've had to get only 4 cautions in 180 laps, forget them. Throw them out the window. We are about to take the gloves off, throw the sticks on the ice, and have at it to see who wins the Daytona 500.
Yeah. We are about to throw some major hands in this pretend car race, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be chaotic. Everyone's been so nice to each other. Like I said, all this single file pack racing, just to take off the laps. Done now. I want to win the race. I want to win the race. There's no time to mess about with it anymore. We'll restart with 15 to go. That's not a lot of time. Even at Daytona, when you're doing nearly 200 miles an hour, that is not a lot of time. So have a look at the fastest lap board, and that is still held by Dustin Dillon with that 45.271, which is the same lap time as from before. So he will get a bonus point as things stand. Of course, that can change when the entire field is packed up together with, when we come to the green, about 16, 15 laps to go. They are going to be pushing and shoving like never before. So it's going to get shiesty up in this front pack. That much is true. So I am eagerly anticipating this restart, but with a little bit of a grimace on my face because I am scared that this is going to get quite ugly quite quickly. But hopefully it doesn't. Well, maybe it does a little bit, but not to the point of unbridled chaos. We'll have to wait and see. But I believe we're going to form up this time behind the safety car 1 to green.
Yes, we are.
So we'll restart with 16 to go. Blake Reynolds and Scott Crump will be in control with Ethan Stanley and David Tucker in 3rd and 4th. So all the usual suspects from that front pack have, of course, cycled back to the front, having pit first, and everyone has now got fueled up race cars. Fresh set of boots, probably, I would imagine, as well. So everyone is now ready for an all-out brawl for 16 laps. I was going to convert it to miles, but I don't like maths.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And of course, there were some people who did, it looks like, come back down pit road under this yellow and go ahead and throw in some extra fuel. And it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, this caution helps everybody because these are some laps you've been able to run without burning fuel. But should we end up in a green-white checkered situation, it'll be interesting to see who has the fuel in store for that.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to think everyone is safe for at least one. Like we mentioned, the pack eventually led by Blake Reynolds pit with 30 to go to the battle scene. That gives them 10 laps of deficit, maybe a lap or so of saving under green, so they can go, I would say, 2 GWCs, 3 at a push if they save well enough under caution to get to that point. So I think everyone is just about safe on fuel, and in 16 laps time we're going to find out. Anyway, so this is about the time where the time for speculation is done. The safety car is now going to make that sharp left onto pit road. Blake Reynolds is going to have control of the field, and the green flag is going to come out right about now. And Blake Reynolds is going to take off like a scalded cat with Ethan Stanley in tow, with Garrison Hogan and Paul Mikolajczyk all behind him. That is all of Racecraft Academy, Channel 199, working together on the bottom lane. That is exactly what they need, and that immediately puts that entire outside lane on the back foot, because they've got energy on the inside. They've got energy with all four of them being in a line, and they are on the inside. Scott Crump immediately back to 6th, back to 7th, potentially even back to 8th here. The outside lane really struggling. The inside lane organised beautifully here.
Not only does it put that outside lane on the back foot, it puts this entire field on notice. If you're going to win this race, you're going to have to figure out a way to get around that team, working together, communicating, working with each other. It's not impossible by any means. 15 laps to go in the Daytona 500, but it's going to take a concerted effort, maybe some strange bedfellows to get this done.
Yeah, that is honestly a little bit scary to look at, seeing 4 Racecraft cars in one line at the end of this Daytona 500. But I tell you what, there's Josh Adams and Matthew Weeks. They are pushing and they are shoving and they are leading this race with 15 to go. Now 14 to go at the start finish line. They have flown ahead of the Channel 199 cars, and now Scott Crump with help from David Tucker. Another 2 guys that aren't necessarily the best of friends, but they are being forced to work together lest they lose this race. With 14 laps to go, Matthew Weeks now leads, looking for his 3rd Daytona 500. It will be the most that anyone has ever won. It will be the first to ever get a hat-trick of Daytona 500s in the 13 runnings that we have now had, including tonight. Crump now being pushed by Tucker back towards the point. 14 to go. A little accordion effect. Jonathan Cutlip and Chad Frankenfield aiding the outside lane. Crump now edging in front towards the lead with help from David Tucker. Crump now clear. Tucker now clear. Cutlip as well may potentially get clear. There's a bit of a stack-up effect on the outside. Tucker now to the outside with Cutlip and Frankenfield. Crump forced to go to the bottom. That will lose him the lead as Weeks is quite a way behind him. Cutlip pushing Tucker hard towards the point. Tucker now clear, and Frankenfield, and Cutlip, pardon me. Frankenfield as well now clear. All 3 of them may well dart to the bottom. Frankenfield darts first. He now takes the lead of the inside line. Cutlip's now going to have to push Tucker even further out in front with support from Ray Bracey and Gilberto Javier Gomera as well, entering the fray for the first time tonight, and Kurt Gibson back up into the top 10. Admitted as well, the Channel 199 Racecraft cars, they've broken apart. Hogan on the outside lane with the 66, 91 and 77 on the bottom. Kurt Gibson with the new fastest lap of the race, a 45.25. So already just about a quarter second off of potentially breaking the 45-second mark. I don't think we'll quite do that tonight. A bit of blinking, I think that was from Gomeras, from Gibson, pardon me. Almost causing an accident inside. 13 to go, 12 to go now. Chad Frankenfield leads the Daytona 500 with Weeks and Crump just behind him. David Tucker leading the outside lane. Weeks now leading the outside lane, and he's going to get a push from his teammate David Tucker. It's all going off inside a dozen to go.
And some of those pushes that we haven't really seen since the first green flag run, those massive pushes where we talked about you could do it for a little while, but you risk blowing that engine if you do it for a long period of time. They are back on the menu, especially if you're in that front of that outside lane, and that massive push can get you out front. That's what it's got to take. You're going to start seeing more and more of that, and it has brought that outside lane back to life.
Definitely, and Matthew Weeks and David Tucker now both clear. Jonathan Cutlip as well now. All 3 of them are clear. All 3 of them will go to the low side. That gives Ray Bracey the lead outside, but he's got a big gap back to Gomera. That's going to stall out the outside lane a lot. Gomera almost looking 3 wide there. Bracey has to throw a little bit of a block. Now Gomera into the back of Bracey with help from Kurt Gibson. Garrison Hogan there as well. We are 3 abreast behind them. That's led by, I believe that's Trey Holmes in the Jordan's Toyota. Yes, that is. He's helped by Ethan Burrell. Kurt Gibson coming up. Chad Frankenfield coming up in front of Josh Adams now, who leads the outside lane. Weeks still in front. All of a sudden, Racecraft Academy, nowhere to be seen. Reynolds and Stanley are still up in the top 10, but just about clinging on. There's Paul Mikulajczyk behind them. Garrison Hogan falling behind on the low side. Weeks still a car length in front of David Tucker and Chad Frankenfield. 10 to go at the Daytona 500. There's one driver leading the inside, looking for a hat-trick in the shovel behind them. Gavin Hibbs off the track. A couple more, we stay green as they all filter down towards the bottom of the racetrack. There's Gavin Hibbs coming back onto the apron. He does so safely. Everyone else stacks up behind them. That's going to cause a big disparagement outside of the top 20. But the main pack still together here. Weeks, Frankenfield blocking each other. Frankenfield to low side, and there now is a yellow. Late on here, presumably for that accident that was down towards the bottom of the track. That was Dustin Dewar coming back up on the track sideways. We'll see exactly what brought out that caution. It was around Dustin Dewar and Gavin Hibbs. This was coming to 10 to go through the tri-oval. Hibbs goes 3 middle. Dewar a little bit squirrely. And just a little bit of, I want to say, netcode between Dewar and Hibbs sends them both flying off towards the infield. They both hold it, but then the car snaps on Dewar, comes flying back up the track. David Westergreen does brilliantly to avoid it, but Dustin Dewar eventually coming to rest in the middle of the track, facing the complete wrong direction.
And boy, David Westergreen with a real pucker moment there, because he's probably thinking for a significant portion of that wreck that the 32 is going to stay much lower, not overcorrect back up towards the racing surface, and instead he ends up having to take an extreme evasive maneuver around car 32. We'll see if we can get that queued up here on the Revelist photography replay machine here.
He sees it all happen in front of him, and only now does he spot a rogue 32 machine, and he barely has any time to lift. He has to make that move at about 150 miles an hour at least. And that is a brilliant show of driving skill there from David Westergreen. We're going to see the incident develop once more from his cockpit here, Zach. Just that little bit of contact as they went through, well, we want to say exacerbated by netcode. And all of a sudden, Dave Westergreen's about to get a real scare.
Especially depending on his field of view. He may not have even seen Dewar start to make his way up the racetrack because of how close it would have been to the A-pillar in his field of vision. I mean, depending on his setup or whatever, that might have been just pure reflexes from David Westergreen.
I can tell you that as someone who runs 45 FOV on a single monitor, that sort of thing is very hard to see and is often quite scary. So yeah, hopefully for his sake, the sake of his underwear, primarily, that he's on a wider setup and saw that a little bit earlier than he might have done. But alas, his car still in the fight. But as Mitch Avir rips around the high side, taking that lucky dog, we are under caution with just 8 laps to go. Those laps have flown by. And right now, Chad Frankenfield is in the lead of this race. Weeks, Tucker, Adams, Cutlip, your top 5. Blake Reynolds in P6. Crump and Stanley, row number 4, sorry, with Seth Rawls and Justin Vandenbauer rounding out the top 10. Paul Mikolajczyk down in P11. Ray Bracey for South Shore Racing in 12th. That is still Ty's car. Gilberto Javier Gomera in 13th. Dustin Dewar there gets the tally for that accident. Michael Hossack in 14th. Kurt Gibson in 15th for the 88 team at Fueled Up Racing. Garrison Ogan for Racecraft Academy Channel 199. He's in 16th. Trey Holm for Pro Edge is in 17th. Jaden Racimus for Abba Motorsports. He's their highest placed car. He is in 18th. Pro Edge's Ethan Burrell is in 19th. And last night's winner, Mark Rabiolus, is in 20th for Covered Bridge. So that is your top 20 to end the 5th caution of the evening here. And the rest of it there. Michael Goodman in 21st. Carlos Acosta in 22nd. Gavin Higgins in 23rd. Sean Judson in 24th. Frank Foti in 25th after having moved to South Shore Racing. Harrison Talon briefly led this race for KFB The Goat Motorsports in 26th. Johnny Thomas for KHR in 27th. That's not David Westergreen, that's the other grey and blue car. That's Connor Thompson for Shift Esports in 28th. Dustin Dewar, the subject of that latest caution, in 29th. That's David Westergreen in 30th. And behind him, Mitch Avir just took a lucky dog for Lake Norman Motorsports. He is in P31. Thomas Coonan is catching up to the back of the pack in position number 32, as is Ryan Gable in 33rd, as well as Zach Novak for Channel 199 in 34th. Gavin Hibbs on pit road for Fueled Up Racing. He's in 35th. Brent Jones for the Crummy Electronic Racing Team is in 36th. Justin Wadsworth, after his move to Pro Edge, finds himself in 37th. Corey Abbott, after a very, very difficult day for him, finds himself in 38th. Jesse Racimus on pit road in 39th, as is Ty McIntosh in 40th. And that just about rounds out all the cars with engines still running. Chad Frankenfield has taken the high side on this restart, Zach, with just 6 to go. Matthew Weeks will be on the inside with help from his teammate David Tucker. So presumably that will work to the favour of Matthew Weeks. But of course, Frankenfield does have a fellow Ford behind him.
And that's exactly why he took the outside. He wants that shift to esports Ford of Josh Adams behind him. A little bit of an affiliation there between the two Ford teams. Of course, like you mentioned, it also put the teammate Toyotas together on the inside, but Chad Frankenfield electing he wants to work with Josh Adams here on this restart. We'll see how it works out.
Definitely. Another thing to watch on the inside lane is, of course, the Pro Edge Fueled Up affiliation. Jonathan Cutlip, good friends with everyone over at Pro Edge, or the Alt G, or the Hood, or whatever they're called. But he's good friends with them. He'll no doubt work with Tucker and Weeks as well. So Jonathan Cutlip, another one to watch in that EPI Chevrolet. We are now coming to 6 laps to go. It is do or die at the Daytona 500. Chang Frankenfield on the gas, super early. Adams with him, and they are both going to filter down to the low side immediately. We'll see how well that works out for the pair of them. They've both got a big gap. Weeks and Tucker clear on the higher side. Too big, I would agree, because Cutlip's clear as well now. The three of them could well blow straight back past them. We'll have to wait and see. There's already Weeks and Tucker going high. Cutlip follows them. Does Frankenfield choose to block with 5.5 laps to go? Crump now going to give a big shot to Josh Adams, who's going to get pushed into Chad Frankenfield. Seth Rawls now joining the party as well. Here comes Paul Mikolajczyk on the outside as well. Garrison Hogan joining the party as well. Here's Blake Reynolds. I believe Justin Vandermeer's there as well in the picture. Everyone now joining the party, and around goes Justin Vandermeer. Hard into the wall. It's Connor Thompson. Trey Holmes is around. It's the big one. We waited 195 laps, but now the big one strikes at Daytona. Ethan Burrell slides into pit road. Gomera's through the grass. Trey Holmes, I think that was, with a hellacious impact into the outside wall. And that is going to set up potentially the first of 3 green-white checkers. That is not what Ethan Burrell wanted, getting sent into pit road. Although race control will surely clear the penalty that comes from that. The field just all of a sudden flew apart. Just as we were talking about Justin Vandermeer entering the picture, all 195 laps of his hard work getting the outside pole has gone up in smoke. We'll watch from the perspective of Dustin Diller. See what happened on the Robalis instant replay. Vandermeer goes around. There's one hard into the wall already. The two of them straighten out. That's Gomera hard into the wall, not Trey Holmes. Pardon me, that's Kurt Gibson just getting into the side of his teammate. A bit of netcode at play.
Yes.
Ray Bracey doing a good job at dodging that. Gomera just gets tagged. That's what sends him so quickly into the outside wall. Ray Bracey has to make another dodge. Brilliant driving from him. Harslack just about clears it. Trey Holmes gets sent for a spin. Burrell, Racimus in it. Michael Goodman in it. Robilas and Acosta slide through the middle. There goes around goes Gavin Higgins. Frank Foti's going to get collected. Sean Judson and Thomas Coonan just about slide through. But that is the field, Zach, very quickly flying apart late on.
Yeah, and I mean, that happened in a hurry. If you were in that pack, you did not have much time to react to that. You saw a few of those guys, Ray Bracey in particular, Carlos Acosta, Mark Revlas, with incredible evasive maneuver to get out of it as it was firing off. But unless you were far enough back like this, you really, it got real big real fast for these guys.
Yeah, that was ugly. I think their only saving grace is that most of it happened in the grass. Because we've seen, I remember, an ARCA Series race a few seasons ago that I was in, 23A I think it was. We had a big one and it all piled up on the asphalt and there was nowhere for anyone to go. It was ugly. There was about 20-25 of us in there. It was a bad one. Luckily that didn't happen. Not as many cars involved, but I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that they all kind of filtered down to the grass, not necessarily up towards the track, and I think a lot of the drivers ended up using that track to actually get past the incident. So I still think that could have been a lot bigger, and that still happened so quickly, and there were a lot of people that did a very good job at dodging that. But you see on the scoring pylon, only 24 cars are actually not on pit road right now. And presumably a few of them will come out to stay on the lead lap with not too much damage, but that is a lot of good cars taken out very late on.
Yeah, and definitely that's when it hurts a lot, right? You know, I've had, before any of these long distance races, I've had plenty of people tell me, "Hey, can you just wreck me on lap 5? Like, if we're gonna wreck, let's do it early, and then I can enjoy the rest of my night." When you get wrecked this late in a race like the Daytona 500, the sting is unimaginable, because again, you put in all this time, all the prep, and then, you know, we're 3 hours into this race, or almost 2 hours and 54 minutes is the time I'm seeing, and now it's all come apart.
Yeah, it stings like nothing else to get taken out later on in the race, especially when you're someone like Justin Van der Merel, who did so well to get up to where he was. Where he was for a long time, he was, for the first 100 laps of this race, stage 1 and stage 2, he was up there. He was really, really, really doing well. And albeit he fell back a few places, he was still inside the top 10, top 15, doing very, very well for himself. And through no fault of his own, what was a brilliant performance from quali up until now, who's just flown apart. That's the sort of thing that really, really hurts. But we have now got, I believe this is a natural GWC.
You are correct.
So we essentially have 4 now, because this doesn't count as one of them, because this is still inside the regulated scheduled distance. This race rather will restart on lap 199. So yeah, we'll see whether we can finish it still inside regulation, or whether we do need to extend the race distance. But still, Chad Frankenfield leading this race. We mentioned earlier he won the 13th running of the Indianapolis 500 in Elite after 12 times of trying. He's never won the Daytona 500 before, and this is the 13th running, and he's in the lead.
True. He won the first one.
Did he?
Yes.
That doesn't count. There were like 2 people in that race.
You may be right. There may be 20 people using AOL 3.1 in that race, but
I don't think I was born then. That doesn't
Stop that.
In the first Daytona 500. So we can't go that far, but he could win the 13th. To your point,
He could, yeah. The 13th of the Indy 500, the 13th of the Daytona 500. My fun fact still kind of counts. But we will see. He still is yet to win the Great Virtual Race. So a lot of pressure, no doubt, from some of the best in the business all over his back bumper. Josh Adams was outside. Matthew Weeks, 2-time champion, trying to get it done for a 3rd time in Elite, trying to be the first to ever do it. We are now inside 2 laps to go at the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. If they make it around again without incident, we have a white flag. The race is official. Doesn't matter what happens from that point. This race is done. Chad Frankenfield with a massive shot from Matthew Weeks. Josh Adams with a massive shot from Scott Crump. Cutlip joining the party, as is David Tucker and Paul Mikolajczyk and Seth Rolls. Everyone trying to give as much energy as they can to their respective lanes. A couple diving below the apron. We are 3 abreast there. Trey Holmes leading the outside lane. There goes Carlos Acosta as well. Frankenfield with a car length on Adams. Weeks potentially trying to clear as well. Crump trying to push his line back into contention. Weeks now clear of the high lane. Does he go alone, or does he wait until his teammate David Tucker is clear? Will that window ever appear? We are now coming towards the white flag. This race is official. Can Chad Frankenfield win his first Daytona 500 after 13 seasons of trying? There's a 2-time champion breathing down his neck with his teammate in tow. Seth Rolls trying to give him a shot. Seth Rolls almost into the pack as David Tucker gives Josh Adams a door check. He's going to get shuffled out. We're onto the back straight for the final time. Now, Pro Edge, 2 and 3. Frankenfield all alone, vulnerable. Matthew Weeks pulls out with help from his teammate. Frankenfield's trying to pull the side drive to try and pull them back. They all fan out behind them. David Tucker now pushing his teammate through turns 3 and 4. Here comes Seth Rolls with help from Scott Crump. Frankenfield falling back yet again. Crump to the inside. Rolls all by himself. They wreck behind him. Matthew Weeks is going to not have enough time. David Tucker isn't going to get there. Matthew Weeks is a 3-time Daytona 500 champion. He's going to hold off the entire pack through a natural green-white checkered. Neither Tucker nor Crump could get there. Frankenfield eventually going to fall back to 5th. The entire field blew up behind them. And inside all the carnage, Matthew Weeks is Elite's first ever 3-time Daytona 500 champion. What an end to that race.
once again, Matthew Weeks. I mean, you mentioned it, 3-time Daytona 500 winner. I mean, one of the best when it comes to these full distance crown jewel events here in the Elite Racing League, the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Pretty sure that's number 6 for him. Whenever it counts, he always rises to the top. And here he is again, celebrating a Daytona 500 victory.
And it's that sort of situation where you see Matthew Weeks starting near the front on a green-white checkered on a late race restart, where you just know he's going to be up there and that he's probably going to win. This was the moment where it was won. This was the last lap pass. Chad Frankenfield, nothing he could do. When the field fanned apart and it was just those two Pros Toyotas, you knew immediately they were both just going to move in tandem and fly back past. And now David Tucker really needed some back end support of his own here. He continued to shove. Seth Rawls was there. He's just coming into frame now. David Tucker tried to pull out. Matthew Weeks, though, did all the defense he needed. Tucker eventually didn't have the distance, didn't have the time. And we are going to, admittedly, blink a little over the line. But nothing David Tucker could do. Nothing Scott Crump could do. Nothing Chad Frankenfield could do. Nothing that the best in the world from the Coke Series could do. Matthew Weeks is a 3-time Daytona 500 champion, and he thoroughly deserves it.
What an incredible finish to this 13th edition of the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. We'll take a look at the results here. Matthew Weeks first, of course. David Tucker second. Scott Crump third. Seth Rawls in fourth. Chad Frankenfield, as you mentioned, coming home in fifth after leading there at the end. Paul Mikolajczyk coming home in sixth. Blake Reynolds seventh. Garrison Hogan in eighth. Kurt Gibson coming away with a 9th place finish. Great showing for him. Jonathan Cutlett rounding out the top 10. We're waiting to get some of these top 3 finishers here in the waiting room. Naturally, it's got to take a little longer, right, for the Daytona 500, but they'll start trickling in here in a little bit, I'm sure. Ray Bracey just missing out on a top 10 with the 11th place finish. Johnny Thomas in 12th. Connor Thompson, after an up-and-down night, coming home 13th. Gavin Higgins, 14th. Mark Revelis rounding out the top 15.
I don't know about you, but I'm just about catching my breath after that one.
That
was a little wild.
That was a wild finish for sure. And you know, it's like you said, once those top 3 got out, unfortunately, Chad Frankenfield, a sitting duck, and maybe he was even hoping he saw Seth Rawls coming. Maybe he'll come pick me up, but I don't think Seth had the ability to get all the way down to the bottom to pick him up, even if he wanted to. And he had a head of steam. He had to kind of commit to the run he had at that point, and really just Chad did not have the help he needed there at the end against the Pro Edge teammates.
Yeah, no. Once those two were together, you could almost see it coming, like from a mile away. Chad Frankenfield, as soon as Matthew Weeks pulls out, Tucker's going to go with him. Tucker's going to shove him. Tucker's going to shove him to the win. There's nothing Frankenfield could have possibly done, because even if he has cat-like reactions and makes the block, he's getting turned around. Because no way in hell either of Zeus or Tucker lifting. He's going around. So he has to just sit there and take it. He tried to side draft them, made a minute difference, but that's all he could do. So he's going to come home for a 5th. But we do now have our 3rd place finisher in the commentary box, Scott Crump. After all that infighting where you were up at the front for most of the race, you happy with the 3rd place?
Kind of happy, but we'd like to see that win here. But definitely getting closer and closer every single time we come here, so you can't complain too much. So I was just a lonely guy up there by myself. I had no teammates around me, and they had everybody up there. So it definitely was just pretty much a sitting duck.
Yeah, we didn't really get to touch on that, but we saw that you were one of very few like normal motorsport entries, and obviously no Tyler Foti, Ethan Stanley's moved to racecraft, Justin Wadsworth to Pro Edge. So I think only Mitch Havia was your only other teammate there, I believe, maybe one other. That lose my memory at the minute. But how much harder was it, obviously, without those teammates around you to help you when you had the likes of Weeks and Tucker hooking up. You had Chad Frankfield and Josh Adams hooking up with that shift a little illegal thing they've got going on. How much harder was it with no teammates of your own?
It's definitely a lot harder because you had to limit your amount of moves, and you just kind of just hang there and just ride it out. I hooked up with Chad and Josh up there at the front, and just kind of just stayed with them because I knew they were two by themselves, and then the rest were like Pro Edge and 199. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely a good start to the season points wise. A third place, never anything to scoff at. Is that a good Kickstarter for Field 2025 B season? Think you can go a few better in the next races and potentially push for that first Cup championship.
Yeah, it was definitely a good night for points. So we got fifth in the first stage and won the second stage. So and then brought it home third on the podium. So can't really beat that. Can't complain too much. The next best thing is winning it. So and just the teammates just stuck together, and one didn't want to make a move to win. So
Absolutely. Anything from Zach before we send Scott Crump away on his way?
Well, yeah, obviously the disappointment of missing out after being so close, but still a strong start to the season. And I think especially with all the extra points on the line at full distance race, it has to feel good to start the season on the right foot with a good finish here, moving into the start of a new season.
Oh yeah, I'm not used to starting out too well, and my finishes here at Daytona have been that great. So it's definitely great to be up there in points right off the bat. So yeah, so hopefully we can go more points chasing next few races, and hopefully get some wins maybe. But yeah, just all around great night.
And before we let you go, of course, let's get those sponsor plugs and shout outs on this third place finish tonight.
Yeah, I guess shout out to my team, Lake No More Motorsports. We were down a few guys tonight, but we were just pretty much spread out, could never get together. Give a shout out to Blue Egg Marketing and Stay Tuned Sports, and then also give a shout out to my grandfather watching, and Chad running the league, and y'all up running the broadcast. Y'all do a great job, and go back and watch these races.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for your time, Scott. Congratulations again on that P3, and hopefully we'll see a few more of your interviews later on this season.
Yeah, hopefully. Y'all have a good one.
So that was third place finisher Scott Crump. Now jumping into the commentary box alongside Zach Evans, second place, David Zucker.
David, that was pretty much a picture perfect ending for Pro Edge Racing. I know you come away with the second place finish, but able to push Matthew to the win. What was it like setting up the last lap from your perspective in car 19?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's multiple instances where I thought the race was pretty much over for us. I mean, I was in a pretty good spot sitting, with about 20, 25 to go. We were all riding in line with channel 199 there, and was kind of just riding along, was just going to wait maybe to the last lap. If I don't win, I don't win. But that caution came out there, and I was like, man, that kind of just really hinders this now for everybody, not even just myself, but everybody. And I still had some friends up there, like you said. Weeks was up there. I had Cutlip up there. Stanley, a close friend of ours, over in the 199 team. Even Blake, Garrison. I mean, all the guys were up there that I usually work with, so I felt comfortable with who we were running with. But I mean, even with the restarts, you just never know what's going to happen, and that's kind of what happened. I mean, going into one, I got a shot from Seth that just right as I made contact with Weeks, it kind of just shot me up the hill, pretty much like accordion effect, but to the right side. And I got into him a little bit, shoved him up the hill, which I didn't really mean to do that. But I mean, we're racing. Seth's not going to lift, and I'm certainly not going to lift. And unfortunately, his car caught the contact. But I mean, that's pretty much what opened the door for us. But I mean, at that point, like as much as I wanted to win that race, and I told Weeks that I was like, I really want to win this race, and I'm gonna do everything I can. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure one of us brings it home. And I had a shot off of 4. I definitely did, and a lot of people are gonna probably question why I didn't go for it. But I mean, you guys saw how close Crump got to me, or at the line, so I can only imagine had I even thought about stepping out and side drafting Zeus, he probably would have went by us both. So. At least for me, I'm just glad I was able to break home for the team, and thank you to Weeks for all the credit he's given me so far. I imagine he's gonna do it in his interview, but like you said, just a solid race for us.
And certainly, definitely a lot of, you mentioned the ups and downs, and even the strategies there when it looked like maybe this race was going to go green flag to the end. And how stressful is it to be a part of all of that over the course of 500 miles, going through all of those obstacles and changes and the cautions and all of that, and trying to adjust your strategy as it goes?
At least for me, I've been doing this for about, at least with the leap, about I would say 6 years now. First season in 2019, and everybody says, oh, it's just sim racing. The nerves aren't really there. They're there. I promise you. Even just riding in line single file on those last 20-25 laps with those guys, I was overthinking every single scenario. Like, okay, if Weeks is only 4 cars behind me, if he jumps out and I jump out at the right time, we're gonna be able to go. Or that might not even happen. That there might be a wreck between all of us 5, or like what happened to Caution, kind of throws a wrench into things. So you got to try your hardest really not to stress yourself out. I mean, especially on these restarts, the moment you start to think about like, oh, I need to make this move, or even just overthink it just a little bit, you're going to start to get hesitant, and you're not going to make the moves you need to make because you're not thinking clearly. And that's pretty much what I did that last restart. I pretty much just shut out all the noise and just told myself I just need to drive and stick to the 11 car. And we did that. So I'm just very thankful for all the experience that I've had racing these plate races. I haven't made it to the end in many of them. This is probably definitely my highest finish in the 500. Unfortunately, I'd like to get one more spot, but that's only going to come with time. So, but regardless, like you said, just quite of a mental battle, but glad we were able to come out on top.
William, have you got anything for David?
Yeah, of course. Obviously second place as a points day, never anything to scoff at. Of course, I assume we're looking for another playoff push from you, David. So, I mean, a second place at the Daytona 500 race, where I suppose there isn't as much in your control as there is with other tracks. Of course, we're going to Texas next week. It's not a super speedway or anything like that. And then we've got a road course, which is, of course, really your bread and butter. So I suppose it's really about the best start you really could have asked for in terms of pushing for a good playoff run this season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I usually always start the year off in 31st till 40th in points every time we come here. So to have that gap already, I mean, we got some stage points in the first stage. I was kind of on the outside looking in for the second stage, but I mean, like you said, just a great haul in points and a great haul of confidence for the season. Past few seasons, I haven't really been able to finish out strong with things just happening and life goes on and sim racing has to stop. But I mean, this year I feel more confident than ever, and I'm ready to hopefully finish out another full-time season with Elite. And I couldn't ask for a better start, like you said. I mean, and also just working with these guys every single year. I mean, even though I haven't really been there in the mix of things, everybody around and our team's getting better, and that's going to help me get better, just trying to match their pace, pushing myself harder and quicker. So just excited for the rest of the season and running with my guys.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on that podium. Just one more thing before we let you go. Any sponsors or partners you want to thank for a second place in the Daytona 500?
Yeah, all of Pro Edge Racing. Matthew Weeks, definitely. He's been a longtime friend of mine and a great teammate to have, and is always somebody I can look out for in these plate races and learn from. And he told me, I mean, you just gotta lock in. Like, don't worry about what's going on. We just gotta play our scenario the way we have it. And we did that, and I couldn't be happier to finish second to that guy. So big shout out to him. Ethan Burrell, I know he probably didn't get the finish he wanted. He was kind of having to fight through it all. Same with Trey. It sucks for those guys. Even Wadsworth, I mean, our newest teammate this year, already getting the Pro Edge freshman year luck. It's rumored that the first year of Pro Edge always goes really bad, so hopefully Justin's able to stick it out and hopefully run another year with us. But hopefully his year also turns around. But yeah, everybody at Pro Edge, everybody involved in the elite, especially Chad, putting this together every single year, giving us a great place to race. I couldn't be more thankful for it, and all of our drivers here. I mean, I feel like we did a fantastic job tonight as a field. With limiting how many cars we crashed up and actually being able to make it to the end and not have it be a huge caution fest. So thank you to everybody involved with Elite. All of our sponsors, Belly Up Sports coming on board with us past couple of years, Worldwide Technology Raceway, Blue Egg Marketing, 4D Racewear, and then last but not least, I mean, JD Designs. John paints all my cars and painted this beautiful car, and probably gonna run this car out for the rest of the season. May get a special scheme in there somewhere, but huge shout out to John for all the work he does, and for everybody. If you need a paint scheme, definitely hit up John at JD Designs. And also you guys up in the booth, what you're doing up here is really professional. It's awesome to watch, and can't wait to watch this one back later today and tonight and maybe even the day after.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on that honorable, for sure, admirable runner-up finish for you, David. Hopefully we'll see you a few more times this season, but thank you very much for your time.
Alrighty, boys. Thank you.
So that was David Tucker. But of course, the man of the hour, the man we've all been waiting for, Matthew Weeks, joins us now in the commentary box. Matthew Weeks, you are a 3-time Daytona 500 champion. How's that sound?
Sounds great. First one to do it. That's what I wanted to do. I want to be the first one to hit that number 3, since I think Fody was the one that beat me to 2. So now I can brag about something to him, Yeah,
he's got all those championships, but you've got 3 Daytona 500s. That's something no one else can say. But you're always up at the front in these super speedways when, I mean, obviously there is a skill element to it, but a lot of it is kind of a lottery. You can find anyone up at the front at any given time. How is it always you that's up at the front at the end of these things? Do you have a secret, or what is it?
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I have a knack for these type of races, especially with the Cup cars. I feel so comfortable. I can get pushed real well. I can give a push even better. So I think that helps. And I guess it's like playing chess, and I love playing chess. So it's like, you're always thinking, you're always trying to figure out stuff, and it's always about trying to take the run when you can, make it a good move and gain, instead of you take the run and then you lose a little bit. So it's really just a placement thing, and I guess I seem to have it figured out to where I can place my car to really get all of it out of these tracks, and we just always end up in the top 5 racing for these wins. If we don't get caught in a wreck, I'm racing for the win.
Absolutely. And we spoke to Scott Crump a little bit about this, kind of the opposite end of it with Lake Norman. Tyler Foote wasn't here. Justin Wadsworth's gone to your team, Pro Edge. Stanley's off to Racecraft. He didn't have many teammates, but you had the likes of David Tucker. You had all the fueled up guys as well with you for the vast majority of that race. How much of a help was that, knowing you had those guys to rely on? I mean, even Tucker just pushed you straight to the win, no questions asked. Like, how helpful is that sort of teammate and sort of friendly rapport for you in these races?
It's really good. Like I've known Tucker probably 12 years, almost 13 years. I mean, we've been racing together for a while. So just to have people like that, I know that I can trust to really push me and not put me in a bad spot. And I know Vandermeer was up there fueled up. We worked real well. We've worked well together at other play tracks. It's just a friendship thing. I mean, I've known these guys for a long time, like longer than I've been racing in Elite. I've known most of these guys. And I worked with Racecraft some night. I think we had the top 7 locked out until that one late caution. So we're just a really good group of friends. We hang out a lot. We don't just race, we play other games together. Sometimes we just hang out in Discord and don't do nothing and just talk. I mean, so it's a good friendship we have. And when we get to these tracks, most of them really know what they're doing and know how to do things. I say most, all of them really know what we're doing here. So it's good to have guys like that you can trust at these type of tracks to give you big pushes and not put you in a bad spot where you would end up getting caught in a wreck or whatever. That's really the main thing. You want people that won't put you in those kind of spots.
Absolutely. Anything from Zach before we send our 3-timer off?
Absolutely. Matthew, I know we spent a lot of time together last Wednesday calling that second duel. And one thing we talked about during that is how you love being racing against the best, the iron sharpens iron mentality, and the level of talent that keeps coming to this series. Where does this, among all the 3 Daytona 500s, the 6 Crown Jewel wins, where does this one rank, knowing who you had to beat for this one?
I would say number 2. The second Brickyard I won last year, where I had to really outrace Blake those last 6 laps, is probably up there because me and him had a battle. But it's up there, like it really is, and it's going to stay up there until I win Darlington. That's the only one I want, to be honest with you. That's the one I've been looking for years in here, and it just never falls my way. And I'm going to get it this year, no matter what. We're going to get that Darlington win.
There you hear it. Circle the calendar, August 27th. Matthew Weeks wants to win the Southern 500. Before we let you go, celebrate this 3-time third win in the Daytona 500. Let's get those sponsor shout outs and those plugs.
Firstly, I want to shout out Tucker for being a good friend and a good teammate right there, pushing the crap out of me to win this race. He could have made his move. I even asked him, like, why didn't you make the move? And he's like, well, we probably would have been at risk of losing with the guy behind. So props to him. He pretty much gave me this win tonight and gave me number 3. So huge shout out to him. All the Pro Edge guys, we were good. I mean, Ethan got caught in some mess, but he was running well. He got put a lap down and worked his way up, and then other messes. Trey was up there with me, working really well, and Wadsworth has the freshman year bad luck at Pro Edge. It always happens first season with the new guy join the team, and it's just bad luck hits. So hopefully that turns around quick. We don't want what happened like Trey to him. What happened to Trey like last season to happen to him this season. So and then Betty always watching. I know she's cheering us on at the Pro Edge guys. All the fueled up guys tonight. Shout out to the Racecraft guys too. I mean, we worked really well tonight. My buddy Justin Vandermeer at JV Designs paints these beautiful schemes. I'll rock every week. Love his work. I haven't updated the scheme in so long because it's so nice. Shout out to John Cutlip as well at JD Designs. He makes probably over half the field's paint schemes, and they all look great. You guys in the booth, you guys do a great job. I can't wait to go back and watch this. I always watch the races back, probably 2 or 3 times. Even when we're off season, I still watch races. So can't wait to go watch this one back big time. And then everyone that watched, it was a good race. Shout out to all the drivers tonight. It was a really clean Daytona 500. Not a lot of incidents. There's probably couple of them, but it's all right. It happens at these type of tracks. So shout out to the entire field, all the sponsors, Chad for running this league, and shout out to the new guys coming in. It's cool to see some Coke guys coming in here, and I can't wait to really race those guys once we get to the mile and a halves.
Well, there you have it, Matthew Weeks, your Daytona 500 winner. Congratulations, man. Definitely earned it. Punch that ticket to the playoff, too. I'm sure we'll talk to you a few more times this season. You say I'm going to talk to you August 27th, so if nothing else, I'll see you then.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you have it. And that brings an end to our interviews on the night, William. What a start to the season. First off, thank you for jumping up here tonight. I'm sure you'll be back to the regular with David Westergreen next week. I don't know. He might try to run that Southern 500. I might be stuck with you again on August 27th. We'll see. But obviously, before we go away, parting thoughts on the Daytona 500 tonight, William.
I was thoroughly entertained. I'm only grateful to everyone for only having 5 cautions, but the way the rest of Speed Weeks went, particularly Sunday and Monday, I was thinking, I'm going to watch the sunrise tonight. As it turns out, the sky is still mostly black as I look out my window at 4:09 a.m. British summer time. So, I am thankful that I will at least get a reasonable amount of sleep tonight. Very clean race. The skill on display in terms of some of the moves, some of the pushing, some of the organization was second to none. Some of the best I've ever seen. You know, really only probably beaten by just watching the Coke series. Like, that was genuinely brilliant to watch. A deserving winner, a 3-time champion now. Just unreal. He just keeps winning these things. It's a bit gross, honestly. I want to win one, and I don't. I don't know how he does it. Yeah, just honestly, one of the best real or virtual Daytona 500s I've ever seen. I was thoroughly entertained, and I am very thankful to have been along for the ride. I'm only sad that David Westergreen's sacrifice of not being in the booth tonight wasn't really rewarded. Ended up getting a little bit toasted late on there, but still, really, really enjoyable.
I mean, even the things that weren't perfect tonight. I mean, you talk about the save from Blake Reynolds early on, some of the wreck avoidances we saw, like from Ray Bracy on that one late caution. I think you're absolutely right. One of the best Daytona 500s I've seen in the virtual world. And that just gets the season started here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Of course, congratulations to Matthew Weeks on winning the RevLimit Workshop Daytona 500. We come back next week. We go to the legacy version of Texas Motor Speedway. We wind back the clock to 2009 for 250 miles there. Be sure to join us next Wednesday, August 6th for that right here on the Elite Racing Network. Until then, on behalf of William White and Dave Huckleberry punching the buttons, producing tonight's broadcast, I am Zach Evans. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in 1 week's time in the Lone Star State.